Welcome back to episode 3 of the 2020 USA Taekwondo Online Poomsae Grand Slam. We are your hosts with the most, Jason and Sherman, and this is episode 3, Revenge of the Poomsae.
It is. You've been chopping it up at Jason and Sherman now, and we're in our 3rd episode. We're comfortable seeing you guys compete at a high level. I hope you're comfortable seeing Sherman and I enjoying your competition because, Sherman, so far, really, really impressive.
Listen, it's only gotten better. I remember the very first Online Poomsae event we had way back at the beginning of summer, and it was good then. But people have become pros at lighting and staging and the delivery of their Poomsae, the packaging of the product. I think that one of the things that's happened in this period of isolation is creatives have risen to the top. And they have come away with, I'm either going to package it and it's going to be phenomenal, or it might not be so. And so we're seeing, all we're seeing is cream because they've all risen to the top.
Oh, you're right. And it's been impressive. Coming off episode 2, an all-male episode, if you will, we're following up episode 3 with an all-female episode.
Ladies only.
I'm going to give you the divisions right here, right now. We have first the under 30 female division, followed by the under 40 female division. What's next? The under 50 female division. Then we're going to lower it down as far as age to the youth female division, black belt. And last but not least, it is the youth female red belt. So an all female division, but we're going to hit some high level black belts. We're going to hit some younger red belts now. And of course, those youth black belt female 10, 11-year-olds that have already competed now, they're really working hard to see if they can move to the finals.
Yep. I've got the Poomsaes that each division will be doing. So our female under 30 division will be doing Tebek and Choreo. Our under 40 female black belts will be doing Taeguk 8 and Kungang. And our under 50 female black belts will be doing Jite and Sipjin. Our youth black belt ladies will be doing Choreo and Taeguk 7, and our red belt female youth competitors will be doing Taeguk 8 and Taeguk 5. So best of luck, ladies. I know we are going to be in for quite a treat in this 16-point major event. Jay, we got to keep reminding them that this event is worth 16 points, man. That's a virtual bucket of points.
I like that, a virtual bucket of points, and you're right. This is a very important tournament, and
yes.
And by looking at the competitor list, we've got the best of the best here. So I'm excited again to watch more high-level Poomsae opportunities to move to the finals now for these competitors. So, yep. Sherman, without further ado, let's take it out to Miyako, Yerick, and Barbara Brand commentating and hosting this semifinal round.
Revenge of the Poomsae.
Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the 2020 USAT Online Poomsae Grand Slam. This is national coach and 2020 national team member Barbara Brand on the West Coast, along with fellow Poomsae fan Miyako Yerick on the East Coast. Hi Miyako, are you ready to enjoy some great Poomsae tonight?
Coach Brand, I am so excited here. We're on episode 3, so today we get all of the female semifinal rounds. And opening us up today is this female senior 1, which is 30 and under division. And we're going to have 2 forms of Tebek and Choreo.
This is Carissa Westman starting off the action. She just had 2 fantastic front kicks to start off her Tebek. And now look at these side kicks. Bang.
Yeah, she's so great. She's one of the young athletes, 19 years old here in this division. I remember her from the summer of Poomsae, had a really great opening round in the prelims. And she just, lots of kicks here in this form, actually both forms, Tebek and Choreo. So that should work to her advantage, showing off those kicks.
Yeah, she trains with Flying V Martial Arts, and her coaches are Harold Martinez and Master Vincent Vienna. She scores a big 7.4 to start us off. So each of these athletes are going to do Tebek and Choreo.
Chop.
Right, and of course, like we mentioned every episode, each division has their own set of 5 judges, and we'll be dropping the high and the low scores, averaging those middle 3, And Carissa really just coming out here strong with those double side kicks. Wow.
She looks great. She's really finishing everything, and I'm a little concerned she might be finishing them just a little too long, right? There's just a little pause at the end of each line, and that might be working out really great for her from the referee's point of view on their video. There is a little bit of an accentuated pause. Other than that, she's fantastic. She's doing some great work through every single line, making sure she's super accurate.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a ton of things to deduct for here. I mean, her stance is really clean. She is taking her time. This is a slower tempo than I think she took at the Summer of Poomsae. So maybe watching that, whole division and the tempo, maybe seeing here, let me slow down a little bit, focus on that accuracy and see if she can
see how it plays out. That rhythm might work for her. And then on the other hand, the judges might think she might need to just speed that up a little bit. But boy, that's a good score as well. 7.47. Her kicks are rock solid tonight.
Yeah.
So she ends up with a 7.433. So up next we have Leila Amiri from High Five Taekwondo in California. She's coached by Master Zhang Yi.
Layla's also just 18 years old coming into this division, and she is training under Grandmaster Zhang Yi, like you mentioned. Her dojang is 2.5 hours from her hometown. So I think we mentioned in the prelims, she's really dedicated here to this Poomsae, really trying to advance herself, training at home in the garage. And also some great kicks here today.
I think her best kick is that right front kick, really zips right up there, almost looking like it's working toward getting vertical. So she comes up with a 7.47 for that first Poomsae. That's already going high here, Miyako.
Yeah, geez. So we have 14 women in this 18 to 30 division, and we're going to take the top 8 into finals. Wow. So we mentioned, I believe it was yesterday in one of the divisions, the question of do you look up or do you look straight on the front kicks? Layla here, I think, looked up on a couple of them, looking up at the side kicks. It's just a stylistic approach. It's not too dramatic, so I think it's okay. And I mean, look at how high those kicks are. She's just really pushing here, looking very strong.
Right, she's doing a really good job of staying on that surface too. I mean, she had to squeak through with a couple of shorter front stances than she might have wanted to, but she's still able to make it work. That's Leila Amiri out of California at High Five Taekwondo. She scored a 7.33. And finishes up with a 7.4. So just under our first competitor, Carissa Westman. So this is Beatrice Belicena, and she's also from California, training with My Kicks Taekwondo Center.
A little bit of a slower approach here coming forward. Very deliberate.
Yeah, again, a little bit slower pause on this section right here. So I don't know if it's those turns that are troubling athletes, or if they're just trying to be very methodical about it. But that Poomsae slowed down just a little bit in the second half from where it was in the first half. So she gets a 7.37. all the athletes is over 7 so far. So we're going to have some high scoring Poomsae here coming up in this division.
Yeah, I definitely think so. You know, the prelims was just front kicks and a couple of round kicks towards the camera. So now we're getting a ton of side kicks in this round, the semifinals. So I think it'll maybe play around with the standings a little bit, because we will get to score some of those side kicks. Of course, not me and you score, Coach Brand, the referees will.
Right.
We're just here watching with you at home.
Right, and in this event, we have 5 Poomsae referees, the high and low scores taken out. And so this is a little bit different than our last event. And trying to give the athletes every opportunity to do very well here in this Grand Slam.
And of course, this Grand Slam counts as a major, which is important on your pathway to try and make the national team. If you win 3 major events, you get designated as a dominant athlete. And if there's a dominant athlete, then they become the national team member. So this is the very first event that you can do that. And Beatrice gets a 7.23 on choreo, or a combined 7.30.
Up next, we have Catherine Tong from Washington. She trains with CW Taekwondo at Boston under her coach and our national head coach, Dan Chuang. So a lot of the athletes, the line coming forward, that last step, their foot turns inward. That's so very common with Quebec, because your body is moving in what seems like a circular motion with your hand. So your foot wants to do the same thing. And it happens often for athletes right there as well. So it's interesting to watch them. And then oftentimes athletes will do it on this last step. She doesn't do it, but there's like 3 times in this Poomsae where it would happen no other time, but it does right there, right? I mean, it happens in no other Poomsae, but it seems to right there. So that's Catherine Tong from Washington scoring 7.4 on her first Poomsae.
Now, I think that was a really good run for Kat. She's 28, so on the top age of this division, but sidekicks coming out pretty easily, really good retraction as well. I know she's been working hard on that.
And we mentioned this in the preliminary round. I really appreciate her doing this outside. Not easy to do in different weather. You know, I saw a car just going by, so it's a little bit of a distraction. She's almost off the mat there on that last step forward. So a lot of things to have to deal with, and, you know, a lot of distractions that she might not normally have to do in her regular club space. That's something I really enjoyed about Summer of Poomsae, was that everybody was in all of these really interesting, creative spaces that they made for themselves.
Right, we're seeing so many more videos from dojongs here at the Grand Slam. I think it is easier to focus both as an athlete and as a judge if you're in, you know, a dojang normal space, but it does take some of the fun out of it. I enjoy seeing all these outdoor spaces, backyards, parks, whatever it might have been. But that was a nice job from Kat.
So she received a 7.4 for the first one, and this one's 7.33.
So just Carissa Westman, the first athlete to go, managed to get a higher score on her second form. Kat's combined score there. I just missed it, Coach. What was it?
7.367 was her combined score, and this is Yunam Jong. She's from Alabama, and she trains at Jong's Yongin Taekwondo.
Right, so we might see that choreo is a slightly more difficult form, more side kicks, very dynamic, and the scores are dropping just a tad for most athletes so far. Again, we have 14 athletes in the semis taking top 8 into finals. Yudam, her whole family does Taekwondo, and she just made those side kicks look pretty easy.
Hello.
So here's Yudam Jung's score. She was seated in the number 10 spot going into this event, and she receives a 7.17.
So that is pretty low. I mean, she is going through this very easily. She looks very comfortable, but maybe not quite as much power as some of the other athletes. But she is very clean, so I'm a little surprised at the gap in scores. Really doing her best to push out the hip on the side kick.
Yeah, her side kicks.
But that causes her to fall in just a little bit.
I think it might be a matter of the power she's performing with here. That might be the difference here a little bit in the scores. Just a little bit more. The core strength would probably help her. She's got a lot of the other basic pieces and complex pieces right in line. So just maybe adding a little bit more.
Yeah, this is, I believe, her first year in the Division 18, so just needs to power up a little bit to try and get in these higher scores. But this score much higher here now, a 7.43. So very nice job bumping up.
She ends up with a 7.3. That's the same score as Beatrice Belacena came up earlier. And we'll see all the scores after about every 6 competitors or so. We'll be able to take a look at the standings. This is Leah Rosen. Help me out, Miyako, because we said it 4 different ways.
I think it's Rosenswag.
Rosenswag, that's a cool name. From Massachusetts. She's at CW Taekwondo at Boston under her coach, Dan Chuang. Just a little bit of a boop there on that last step.
Side kick. But front kick's coming out nicely, pretty clean and high. And she's worked really hard so far this year to recover from that injury. So I think that she's doing all the right things, doing the hard work, and coming out strong here in the semis.
Okay, so yeah, 7.2 for her first performance. She looks like she has a little bit more room to stand up on those front kicks. Like she could maybe just stand up a little bit taller to get a little bit more height, nice clean posture. That kick actually looked great. Her recovery wasn't the best, but that kick looked really aligned and nice. Seems like she's really comfortable on the side kicks. Maybe not quite as comfortable on the front kicks, which is interesting.
Right, that's not as usual. I think just we've been doing a lot of work on front kicks on my team, trying to figure out how to, tilt the hips and get a really nice driving front kick like you've been mentioning on some of these episodes, so it's not a swinging front kick. And we're just breaking it all down and trying to rebuild it back up correctly.
7.07 for her second Poomsae. I was talking about that same issue with your coach, Coach Chuang, just the other day. 7.133 for her final. I'm talking about different ways how to start that chamber to make sure you're not having difficulty there. So here's our standings with Carissa Westman in first, followed by Leila Amiri and Catherine Tong. This is Kira Chan, also from Massachusetts at TA Black Belt Academy. She's coached by Dan Chuang and Carissa Fu.
Yeah, it's funny. We just had Leah, now Kira, and I'm actually up next. So all 3 of us from the same school right after each other.
Wow, look at that. Her kick looks like very easy for her.
Yeah, Kira has some really effortless side kicks. Very, very flexible. One of her strengths for sure. also a freestyle athlete, so we will see her in an upcoming episode for freestyle, as well as traditional individual here.
And wow, look at that score, a big 7.53.
Yeah, that's the biggest score we've gotten so far.
Right, by a bit.
Yeah, she just makes those look so easy. I'm very jealous of your sidekicks, Kira.
Yeah, very silky.
I feel like similar to Yudam, Kira's been really trying to work on her power and not just being clean, but having some power at the end of her moves. And 7.53 in that first form, so it must be coming through a bit to get that score from the judges.
I
This
think
is
she's
her-
really improved over the last couple of years with her finishes. She seems to really complete her movement before moving to the next step, which seems like a very basic thing, but it's not, right? So she's able to complete a lot better. So her first form, she received the highest score, 7.53, and now has a 7.47, so that should put her in the lead there.
Yeah, that should bump her up over Carissa, who had a 7.43. So now a 7.5 is the new high score.
Right, and right after that is 7.4. Here's Miyako Yerick.
Hello, Coach Brand.
Not sure how she'll do here, so let's take a good look. Miyako, let's see. She was seeded 19th coming into this event. She's from Maryland. She trains at CW Taekwondo at Boston under Coach Twong. So this is the part she's really looking forward to here, I bet. That nice side kick going up there on the left side. And it's fun to probably be watching yourself, right? Miyako, a little surreal, seeing yourself.
No fun. Yeah, I'm very nervous watching, I took a bunch of rounds of videos and you're at home trying to pick which one are you going to submit. Little things here and there. I know I had a couple little, clicks out of both of my sidekicks. I'm having some hip issues these days. So you just pick the best runs you get, and I was happy with something. Wow.
7.67. Holy cow. That's a great score.
Geez. I guess they didn't mind, sidekicks aren't quite as high, but I have been working really hard on trying to get smooth and then hard finishing power.
Right. I saw what you mean about just that little boot cut, around the sidekick, but it didn't seem to matter because they like the tempo and everything else. So they're liking your finishes for sure. They seem nice and clean. Front kicks look great. Clearly over the head, clearly looking strong. Yeah, and gotta say your accuracy has improved, just like Kira's has. So I think it might be something attributable to just having the time now with your coach to get to these little nitty-gritty things that you guys have probably been working on for years, but now just with more detail.
Yeah, one thing about the Zoom training is that sometimes we get one-on-one, which is something I usually don't get if you're training in a team or in a group. It's hard for the coach to see every little thing, but in a 30-minute Zoom class one-on-one, they can pick up on a lot of things to work on.
Right.
So that's been really helpful for me.
That last step where your foot was turned inward on that front stance, that's something that we're talking about is common in Quebec. So maybe looking through the Poomsae to find the other ones of those. 7.77 now moving into first place. So we'll see that combined score 7.717. That's what happened with the preliminary round, right? Like you shot right into first place when you got there. And then held that for a bit of time. So we have now AJ Munoz from Texas, our Team Torch Taekwondo. So let's see what happens with this Taebaek here.
I really like watching AJ. She has a slightly different style from a lot of athletes. And she always does really well. Very, very clean, really great core strength. So we don't see, I fall out of some of my sidekicks. We don't really see that from AJ, at least not in competition. I know she sometimes posts bloopers on her Facebook, so it's nice to see, everybody works through a lot of struggles and we try and get out a really good run. And this was a nice, strong run there for AJ.
Yeah, AJ has a very deliberate style, very clean, very sharp. So let's see how the scores come through here. So 7.87, we're now getting into some very high, exciting scores.
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten any 8s so far in the tournament. We got very close, but we haven't gotten there yet. So let's see if we can do it in this division. Really clean on that opening bar for the side kicks and nice high front kicks.
Yeah, I think this is a favorite Poomsae for AJ. Always feels comfortable when choreo is on the list of the designated Poomsae.
It's a nice setup here with the curtain in the backdrop, the 2 flags and their Texas Forge sign. It's so interesting now, you know, dojang owners for all these tournaments, they set up video recording days so that all the athletes can come in at like staggered times and record. Since we can't have a ton of classes just for, you know, keeping our distance and staying safe. So we have staggered times to record all the athletes. And look at that score, 7.8.
7.8. So now in the lead is AJ Munoz. So her combined score is 7.833. So we're going to see a difference in style for sure coming up with other athletes taking a slightly different approach. This is Kelsey Ha from California. She trains at Team M Taekwondo with Coach An Hui and Long Win.
One thing I really like watching about Kelsey on her kicks is her body just barely moves. You know, she's kicking so high and she doesn't need to dip or bend her torso so much. Look at that.
Yeah,
Jeez.
there you go. And I also have to say her power's improved over the years and her ability to stick some of the stances.
Yeah, Kelsey's almost a veteran, you know, in this division. She's been around for a few years and always very good and a great teammate and partner as well. She competes in pairs and team. So I think we will see her throughout other divisions in this tournament as well, but we'll have to see. But here, a nice big 7.67.
Which is the same score Miyako Yerick received for Quebec. So this will be interesting to see what happens on choreo.
I just love everybody's kicks so far.
Yeah,
like everybody's doing a great job.
A lot of improvement on her stance work. It's more apparent, I think, in this Poomsae, where she has a lot more solid finish. And not than the other athletes. I'm just comparing her to herself over the years. She's looking stronger.
Kelsey's also taken on I think a leadership role within M Team, helping train some of the other athletes. So it's always nice to see some of those younger athletes. She was once, you know, the young youth athlete on the team, and now black belt and one of their, you know, leaders in the team. So really nice to see Kelsey at this tournament doing a great job. She looks really great.
So she received a 7.67 for that first Poomsae. And now here for choreo, 7.57. So finishes with a 7.617. Now we have Yerim Zhang from Alabama, from Zhangjiang in Taekwondo. So we saw her sister earlier, right, Miyako?
Right, exactly. I was going to say Yudam went 5th. And a lot of great fundamentals. I think we just wanted a little bit more power from her, but from Yerim here, coming out looking strong.
Wow, nice extension on that side kick. That's great. Such
I'm
great
seeing
extension
Coach.
on right front kick.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of the base legs opening up to like 90 degrees. Is that something that's kind of okay now, do we think, or should we strive to keep it at a 30 degree?
30 degrees is what it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to be rotated that much. However, oftentimes many athletes, especially the young athletes, little cadets and the youth, they seem to get away with it because they just, push up and everybody's looking up and not too many people are looking at their base leg.
Right.
She's pretty opened up here. And I'm guessing she's going to get away with it right at about 90-degree angle. But you're going to go past that, then there's going to be a lot of trouble.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, everything is so good. And like you said, when those kicks are going straight up, that's where your eye is going. It's not going to the base foot. And Yerim got a 7.67 on Tebek. So 3 athletes within the last 4 with the 7.67, but AJ holding out with that 7.87 on Tebek. So she still has that high score right now of a 7.833. So Yerim here's going to have to jump up to try and beat AJ. So that was a really, really nice performance.
So 7.8, that's a nice score there, but not quite enough, definitely enough to be in the final round, I'm sure, but not to take the lead. So 7.733. And we have just 3 competitors left, right? So this is Haley Raw. She was seeded number 11 in this event. She's in New York training with Agape Black Belt Center. So now we're going to see this difference in styles, right? So you have that group of athletes trying to go with powering up, for example, like AJ, and then we have athletes trying to do a little bit more smooth motion. And then here Haley Raw is trying to do a combination of those 2 things, finishing really clean, but also connecting as much as she can to make it look as smooth as possible.
Right, and we saw in the last episode that male senior 1 division, we had Alex Lee and Ethan. So a 7.87 here, so a nice high score tied with AJ.
Yeah, at least on this first one, right? So we see the similar style and trying to finish very clean, very sharp, very powerfully. So it'll be interesting to see here on choreo.
Right, it's interesting. I mean, different styles are scoring well. So it's not like only one style is the thing you have to do to try and advance. I think cleanliness always comes first, but then from there you can try and play with a different style. Do you want the softer, smoother? Do you want to try and power up? That was a nice bar too on the side kicks, makes it look pretty easy, but did have some good power.
Yeah, she's able to really throw some power in there. A nice clean run for Haley Raw out of New York. So again, she received a 7.87 for that first Poomsae Quebec, and now score up for choreo. Coming through with the third one, 7.87. The total score is
That's our new high score.
7.867. And here's our standings. Haley Raw first, followed by AJ Munoz, Yerim Zhang, Miyako, Yerick, Kelsey Hogg, Kira Chan, Carissa Westman, and Layla Amiri. That's a top 8 so far. We're looking for the top 8 to move into the final round. So we have just 2 athletes left in the division. So up next,
I remember Christy, she has a very different style too.
up next we have Christy Park.
little bit harder stops, actually similar style to Carissa Westman, sort of, who went
Right.
first.
That's exactly right. So she has that pause at the end, and with Carissa Westman right off the bat, she scored pretty high. So I'm going to see what happens here, because now it's very clear that pause at the end of each line. Looks like she's being very careful, very cautious, doing everything as accurately as possible. And now we'll see what the referees had to say. 7.87, another great score, and that ties her again with Haley Raw and AJ Munoz for that first form.
Yeah, and that presentation, geez, was that a 4.5 combined presentation score? So these kicks are definitely helping Christy boost herself. Of course, came into the semis in the second place spot from the prelim. And here, I think probably solidifying that.
Right, she's originally seated in the 4th position for this event. Really good extension off those side kicks. Very deliberate, very careful as she moves from step to step. She does not move until that last one finishes, for sure. She's always balanced when she goes into the next step.
Yeah, very, very clean, deliberate, and that stopping power, like you mentioned, on some of the younger athletes, we see sometimes a little bit of a wiggle as they hit the motion but can't cleanly stop it. And she does not have that problem. She is very good at stopping it.
7.73 for the second Poomsae, so a little bit of a drop there for her. So Christy Park's going to finish out with a score of 7.8, so being easily into the final round. And now's our last competitor up, seated number 1 for this event. This is Karen Rial from California out of Eagles Taekwondo. Beautiful kicks on that first line to start.
A lot of rotation there on this part right here.
Yes, on that punch, she's really able to get that core to turn.
And the last couple of athletes, almost nearly vertical side kicks. Karen's side kicks aren't quite as high, but they're just very clean, accurate, perfectly controlled on the way down. And it hasn't mattered to her scores so far. So I think it's nice to see, and myself included, my kicks are not that high right now, but it's only one component to the overall score. And look at that, a 7.97.
Great job. A lot of her flair and beauty tends to come from her posture, right? So she might not be kicking as high as everybody else, but if you look at these front kicks, like her posture is going to be really stellar as she comes through this first line toward the camera. And I know we can't appreciate it as much from this angle, but real quiet body and really can accentuate that kick.
Right, and just the smoothness of the hand techniques, especially on some of the blocks here, just smooth through and then that clean finish. There's just no jerkiness to it, which is just really nice to watch. So Karen seeded number 1 coming into this tournament, held on to that number 1 spot through the prelims here, getting the highest score so far, but can she break the 8? It's the question we always want to know. Can Karen get that 8?
7.97. All of these athletes getting such great scores today in this division. Nowhere near as 6 for anyone, right? So
right,
amazing. And there it is. Ding, 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 ding.
Oh my gosh.
An 8.0.
We got it. 4.57. Wow. Amazing.
Oh, really? Wow. 7.983 for the final score. Come on, Karen. I want to see that for the final score over 8 next time. So she's in first place, followed by Haley Raw, AJ Munoz, Christy Park, Yerim Jung, Miyako Yerick, Kelsey Ha, Kira Chan, all of those into the top 8 for the final round. And when will we be enjoying that episode, Miyako?
Oh, I'm not sure. Let me go into my notes and see when those finals. So, of course, these two episodes 2 and 3 were the semis. So, episode 4 and 5 will be the finals.
I see it's going to be on Friday. I can't wait for that, especially leading into the weekend.
Friday. How exciting.
Wait.
Hey, USA Taekwondo family, it's your man with the plan. It's Coach Sherman Nelson, and I'm here with Michelle Chignola. She is our interviewee guest of honor for today. Ooh. Michelle, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for the opportunity to do this interview. I appreciate it.
It's very cool. It's our pleasure to get to talk to you. All right, so give us some fundamental details about you, where you're from, how long you've been doing Taekwondo, where you train, what division, what belt, all of that kind of stuff.
So originally I'm from the suburbs of Boston, Massachusetts.
Boston. Yeah, I saw how you switched. Boston.
I know.
That's nice.
So that, I grew up there. And then when I got married, my husband's in the military. So we've moved all over. And we found ourselves in Alaska when our kids were little. And they, we needed something in the long, cold Alaskan winters for them to do. So we signed them up for Taekwondo. And from there, they kind of reeled me in and got me to train with them.
Okay.
At one point, moved back to Massachusetts. A friend of mine from high school had a dojang there, so we started training with him. And just about 2 years ago, we moved to Colorado Springs.
Okay.
And joined US Taekwondo Center. So about a year ago, I tested for my black belt. So, I'm still very, very new in this black belt division. This is my first season, my first competition season. So I'm a little sad I can't spar because, I am a sparring athlete as well, and I do love that.
Okay.
But it is really good to have this platform and to be able to train and really have something to work towards when it comes to Poomsae.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, congratulations. We'll teach you the secret black belt handshake now. Well, we have to do it virtually, so we'll email you the secret black belt handshake. Tell me, what's it like? What's it like competing virtually? What's that feel like?
It is very different than competing in person. As I said, this is my first competition season as a black belt. So the color belt divisions competing in the under 40 category is it's much smaller. It's much I don't want to say it's less competitive, but there's less pressure.
Right. Right.
But
it's different. Right. And it's fair to say that it's different. Not better or worse. It's different. Right. Okay.
Yes. But coming into this division is packed with these amazing athletes that I've been looking up to for years. And the fact that I can, even virtually share the mat with them, it's fantastic.
It's got to be a good feeling to be out there and be among them.
Yes.
And to know that somebody somewhere may be looking up to you that same way. And so you got to keep inspiring and aspiring. And so I'm proud of you for getting out there and for doing it. It takes a lot to compete.
Yes,
and to people who have done it, we know what that is. People who haven't done it, I'm like, do it first and then talk about it. Because once you do it, even virtually, you have to, I know that you guys get to package your video, but you still have to submit it. And you know that some people are looking at it with this eye. And it takes courage to be able to put that out there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, exactly. So we commend you. Thank you for taking some time out of your day. We appreciate it. It's always great to get to know the members of this organization that's really a family to me. I've invested over half my life in this sport.
And it's always great to get to know a new cousin. So, hey, cousin, thank you for being a part. We wish you the best in this competition and every competition moving forward. All right?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Ciao.
준비
So here we are with the
시작.
under 40 female black belt division. Starting off, we have Michelle Shinola from.
Yeah, I think it's Chignola.
Can you say that for me again?
Chignola.
Shinola. Oh, that's easy, just like it's spelled.
Right. I definitely wanted to make it like French and like Chignola or something. But I clarified it is Chignola.
It's just too easy. So the athletes in this division are going to be performing Taeguk 8 and Kumgang. I love this space. It looks nice and clean in terms of like no distraction around the room. She did a really good job to set up her space and putting that mat out there.
Whoa.
Good job. That looks really good.
Right. I hope that if that's a garage, I hope it's heated out there in Colorado.
6.87 to start us off. Again, she trains at U.S. Taekwondo Center in Colorado.
시작.
So now we're in the 31 to 40 division. And I know I'm going to be watching this very carefully because I'll be in this division in just 2 months. And I appreciate all of the work that these ladies do. We have 13 athletes in the semifinals here. It is our first time seeing them since 13 will start in the semis, taking the top 8 into the finals.
And she's doing a good job staying balanced through the beginning of Kumgang here. I got to say the camera angle is throwing me off a little bit. Looks like it's kind of high and angled downward. So it's just a little bit different of a perspective I'm getting. More and
Right,
more.
it's like you're standing up high
Right, like
in the
I'm on
bleachers watching.
Yeah, exactly, which is what we do oftentimes at events. So for the referees, though, probably better positions put that camera right in line so that the belt is at the center,
바로
meaning height-wise. So maybe leveling that out a little
Shaya.
bit would help.
그녀의
Right, looks like she took a very cautious approach to this form. I think she's a fairly new black belt, if I'm correct in that. And so maybe Kumgang a newer form and just working through the spins and those stances. She gets a 6.57.
Yeah, but I thought she did a good job. No majors on that, which for a lot of
Right.
athletes, that's fantastic when you're not losing your balance anywhere in the form.
준비
This is Miriam Juzi.
시작.
Juzi? I'm gonna say Josie. That sounds cool. And Miriam is at an elite Taekwondo center in California, and she's coached by Master Kwangyil Bae.
And Mariam is 40, so this is probably her last tournament in this division. She'll age up next year. One thing I'll mention is the point system. So you get points for doing this tournament. It's a 16.0. The points last for 12 months. So if you want to try and be ranked number 1, you go to a bunch of tournaments, but they phase out. So they're not there forever. Each tournament is good for 1 year. And if you age up, you do want to check the packet, but I think you lose about half your points depending on which division you're in as you age up into the next one.
바로
Good job for Miriam Josie from California on her first Poomsae. And she gets a 7.0. So up a little bit higher than our first athlete.
시작.
So winning this tournament counts as a major tournament win. And it can move you one step closer to being the dominant athlete in your division. If you're the dominant athlete in your division, then you will automatically become a member of the national team.
But Coach Brand, what if there are multiple dominant athletes?
Well, there can't be multiple dominant athletes in any given division, but there could be athletes who, when, each one of them won a major tournament. Let's say we have 3 athletes, they each won one of the major 3 tournaments. So in that case, we would have a team trial to find out who will make the U.S. team.
Gotcha.
Anytime you win a major tournament, you get a place on the national team roster, and you must be on the national team roster to be selected as a national team member.
Right. So if there's no dominant athlete, but lots of people are on the roster, then those people on the roster get invited to the team trials. So it's not an open team trials where anybody can go anymore. You do have to be on that list, and to get on the list, you have to win a major or be identified in one of the talent ID camps or academy camps. So more information on that next year. Everything really depends on COVID and when we can safely gather and fly and travel again. So keep working, use opportunities like this one to, this is all online, but it counts as a major. So it's a pretty big deal here.
Oh, good job on that second form, another 7.0.
That's very impressive to get a same score on Kumgang as Paljung.
Right. So she ends up with a final score of 7.0. Winning this event also gets you a place in the academy, and the academy will be having different camps and so on in 2021, hopefully. And again, depending on COVID, as Miyako mentioned. Not really sure when those can be scheduled yet, but as soon as it's possible, those camps will be scheduled. So this is Chloe Marie Mercado from Elite Taekwondo Center, coached by Master Victor Chung. He competed in the last episode. So now we went from that kind of a high camera position to a very low camera position.
Right, and she looks very comfortable taking a good tempo here, not some of those hard stops like we've seen before, not careful in her approach. So I think very comfortable with this form. We'll see if she takes a similar tempo on Kumgang though.
Oh, look at that, 7.43. That's a huge bump from her highest score so far, which was a 7.
Right, and that accuracy of 3.3, that'll do it. So her performance was a 4.13. So really that score is coming from the accuracy being so good. These crane stances, of course, are an 8 count. There's no deductions if you're within a second either way. So if you're 6 or 7 or 9 seconds, you're okay. But each second off of that would be a minor deduction, 0.1. And I know I practice counting. Sometimes I have to count to 10 to make it actually 8 seconds. But everybody has different tricks for how to get to 8 seconds. It's a pretty good level on her thighs. Angled just down, but pretty good. I think she could bend her base like just a tad and just sink a little lower in these stances would help.
Right. It does at times, but then it comes up a bit, right? So she has this little bit of a variance in the hip position, her head height. So maybe just a little bit more work on the consistency there will get her highest score. That's a 7.07 for Kumgang. So a bit lower than that first one, where she had a 7.43 net. So she ends with a 7.25.
준비.
This is Geraldine Cross.
시작.
She's from New York. She trains at Sunset Taekwondo under Victor Scott.
Geraldine recently tested for her 5th degree black belt. So congratulations on that. That's a really great achievement.
Is she new to competition, Miyako?
I can't tell. She has done a lot with her dojang out there in New York, helping judge tests, but I haven't seen too many results. So she might be fairly new to competing.
So she received a score of 6.5 for the first Poomsae, Taego 8, and now off to Kumgang.
시작.
Want to watch those blocks there, make sure they come across. They were angled just, a little bit forward and up, and you want them to come directly across the body.
She has good balance on these Hagdari Sogis. Maybe a little bit more speed and power on the punches would help the score.
All right, she does look a little bit taller than some of our athletes, so it is going to be hard for her to stay grounded and low, especially during Kumgang. But I think that if she just opens up the stances just a tad, makes them a little wider, she'll be able to sink lower into those stances.
Yeah, that's
a
the
couple
thing.
little accuracy things.
Yeah. Anytime you make a little change in Kumgang, seems like it affects the whole line. So she's probably just trying to be careful this time out. So Geraldine Cross receives a 6.0 and a total score of 6.25.
And I think we have a lot of athletes in this division. I could be wrong, but they might not have competed in other tournaments to be seeded. So we're getting a bunch of scores kind of across the board here in the first few athletes.
So this is April Min from North Carolina. She trains at Kim's Taekwondo Center under Master Soo Young Kim.
Her torso is very solid. There's not a lot of extra motion. That's nice. Very clean.
Yeah, that's probably the best part of her Poomsae, right? Like how she's controlling that extra movement. And as you mentioned with the young kids, sometimes their feet and their hands stop moving and then everything else after that. So be able to finish up pretty clean. So she received a 7.27. That's the second highest score so far for Taego Gate.
Right, Chloe got that 7.43, that massive score. But the question really is, can you hold the score on Kumgang?
Right.
Opening up pretty clean and a nice pickup there for her first crane stance. Again, we have 13 athletes here in the semifinals for this female 40 and under division. I'm just slowly hoping to change the culture so we can call it 40 and under instead of under 40, because it includes that year, the last year in the division.
Change the culture.
And April here is just very, very solid.
She's a very petite body type, and she doesn't have any extra movement. So it makes her look a little boop off of that one, but looks in general pretty darn clean.
Yeah, that was very, very solid. Clean Kumgang. I think I would be happy with that run for both Paljong and Kumgang. Yeah. It's hard with Kumgang. It's the second form, because you could have a great Paljong and get all the way and mess up the last pickup on Kumgang, and you just got to take it sometimes.
Yeah, not too much of a drop off in score for her from 7.27 to 7.23. So finishing with a 7.25, and I think that ties her for first place. Again,
Yeah,
we'll
that's
see,
going to be an interesting one.
we'll see the standings at about every 6 or so. This is Christina Bentley from Oregon. She trains at World Champion Taekwondo.
So she, her first online tournament was the Summer of Poomsae. Now she's competing here in the Grand Slam. And she's competed at Oregon State Championships before and just recently earned her second done. So we'll have to see if she can take a big step here at the end to get back to that starting spot.
It's going to be a big step if she does that.
Called one of those forms a lot of athletes need to cut over if they don't do it quite right, but getting a 6.7, so a pretty good score.
Right, and I almost felt like I could think through her Poomsae as she was doing it. I felt like I was like in her head going from step to step and focusing on what she was focusing on. She's very deliberate. She's saying, okay, I'm gonna step back. I'm really gonna hit that right there. Little wide on horse stance. And she started off pretty low, but now her body is coming up a little bit in the horse stances. So maybe needs to go back down a little bit more. And if she does, then give her a little bit more balance. Like this Hakari knee right here is not quite bent to the degree that it will help her. Sometimes we think, well, if you just don't go down as far, it'll be easier, but actually it's harder.
Right, especially if you have to.
Yeah, if you're all the way up or you're all the way down, it's easier. But if you're halfway, your body doesn't quite know what to make of it.
Yeah, there's only 2 levels in Kumgang. It's down low and up high for those 5 counts. So, you know, that middle ground is not quite the best for this form. Really not for any form, but you really see it in Kumgang if you don't stay low across these bars.
Yeah, she did a little bit better trying for that at the end of the Poomsae. So good job to Christina Bentley. Her first score was a 6.7 for Taegukgae and now a 5.8 for Kumgang. So wraps it up with a 6.25.
We have another tie there too.
Right. So she's tying with Geraldine Cross. So here we have the standings. April Linden first, followed by Chloe Mercado, Miriam Jersey, Michelle Chinola, and Christina Bentley. So this is Hillary Monaco. She trains in New York with Westside Taekwondo.
So we saw this dojang in an earlier divisions upstairs. So now we're down in the basement section of the Westside Taekwondo dojang.
She has some really nice, clean finishes on her hand technique.
Yeah, you know, she competed in the Summer of Poomsae and just missed that cutoff into the final. She was 9th and just worked and worked and worked.
Wow.
And I've actually been working with her, and I think the power is actually coming through really nicely. Good, clean finish.
It's like night and day.
Yeah, I really liked that.
Good job to Hillary Monaco on her first form take up Paljong.
Very nice.
Oh, look at that, 7.43. So that's tying with the other high score in the division from Chloe Mercado. So if she can stay steady on this Kumgang, she has a good shot at moving into first place. Look at those deliberate endings. Wow, I had Not seen her do it quite like that before.
Yeah,
Little
this
lower-
is really new.
Maybe a little lower here would be good, and she might suffer from the score for slightly higher stances, which would be a shame given the progress she's making in the hand technique. She's got to be willing to stay
Right.
at lower heights if she's coming up on those turns.
So Chloe, who got the same score on Taeguk 8, got a 707 on Kumgang. So Hillary needs to get higher than that to sneak into first place.
Definitely possible here. I just think in the future, just spreading out those horse stances a little bit more and dropping down a little bit lower on those, and the Hakari Sogi would help her score.
Right, especially on this form, you know, she has some space on the side, so she could open up, widen those stances a little bit. On Shipjin, you know, we have to open up that door on the left so that she can punch and not hit the wall.
Oh, wow.
So some forms are tighter in this space, but Kumgang, I do agree, she could open up just a little, but I'm really happy with the progress she's made just from the summer of Poomsae to
Kind
this
of funny,
Grand Slam.
that last step, that last Juchum Sogi horse stance is actually quite good. So she just needs to do what she did in that last step. Clearly she can do it. So she gets the highest score here, I think, so far on the
Yeah.
Kumgang. And look at me being picky, but she received a 7.450. So into first place.
And that's a higher score in Kumgang than Paljang, which nobody's done yet.
That's great. So this is Rebecca Ong from Florida.
Remember her as well. Very good, very clean, and strong as well. We do get a lot of power, even though she is a petite body type.
Great. So that's Rebecca Ong from Ong's Taekwondo. Wow, look at that score, 7.5. That's a big score.
시작.
Yeah, the highest score so far, especially on that first form. And yeah, there's just a lot of power coming through for her. And clean, you know, I thought my video just froze there for a second because she picked that up and just absolutely hit the crane stance. It was so clean. But of course, she's just very accurate here. So it looks very good.
And she is able to stay low on those turns. So see if she drops down here, we know she wasn't quite as low as she could have been, and she just got to stay. That was a very good transition there. Staying nice and low, hips level. Oh, see, these athletes drop much lower. Their belt goes up and down. It's kind of easy to see the changes as they're moving. Are they able to, stay consistent throughout the Poomsae? So nice turn there as well to the inside.
Yeah, very smooth pickups and then just absolutely holds it. I don't think she's bobbled at all on any of those transitions.
Yeah, really good. So that's Rebecca Ong from Florida. She got a 7.5 for that first Poomsae Taeguk Paljang, and Kumgang pretty darn solid as well. So there it is. Wow, look at that, 7.7. And now she's into first place. The combined score is 7.6.
Hey, USA Taekwondo family, this is Sherman Nelson, Coach Sherman Nelson, and I'm one half of the Chopping It Up Homeboys. The other half has gone far away. I'm the good half, and I'm here with Kathy Doe. She is competing in our Online Poomsae Grand Slam. Hello, my lady. How are you?
Hello, sir. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Listen, thank you for taking some time out to talk to us, but we need the official deets. So you got to give us your name and where you're from, your dojang, your division you're competing in, your rank, all of that kind of good stuff. So take it away.
Okay, my name is Kathy Doe, like you had said. I'm originally from Miami, Florida, in the Fort Lauderdale area now. Trained under my father, under a young taekwondo my entire life, and took over the school when he passed away, and just kind of doing my own thing right now, coaching on the side. I compete in the under 40 individual division, as well as the team over 30 division, which is kind of on pause right now. And actually next year I'll be moving up into the M1 division. So this is my last year competing in this individual division.
Let's talk about online competition versus in person. Tell me, give me some pros and some cons of online competition.
So pros are definitely the fact that it's something, it's a competition that's available right now during these times, versus not being able to compete or stay engaged in the sport. So it's been a really nice thing to have, and a way to stay motivated and training and participate. I guess some of the cons would be just the approach becomes different. Performing live versus performing on a video is very different. And there's also the mentality of, you got one shot and done, versus what could happen mentally is thinking, oh, I can re-record, and that lapse in mental focus, or that edge that you bring to the table. I think that's been pretty much the biggest difference. The other thing I would say is almost even strategically how you perform is a little bit different live versus on video. And
I can imagine that when you're in the pit watching and a person goes up, you have a whole different process than not being able to watch a person. There's an energy exchange that happens in real life that we don't get to have. And we've been at enough tournaments together over the last few years to know that this is by no means meant to replace in-person tournaments, but it is a way to keep the fire from going out, and so I'm grateful to USA Taekwondo for, doing what they can to help where they can. It's not enough to be able to do something, but you got to want to do it as well. And so I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for athletes like you and coaches like you who get to still get out there and do something. And, our kids I think competition is a valuable part of life.
I agree.
And I think that every opportunity we give them to sharpen their mettle against somebody else is a good lesson for them. So Kathy, I don't want to keep you. I want to ask you a question. If you could have a superpower, this is the provocative stuff here. So don't take this question lightly. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a good question. That's something I have not thought of.
See, that's what I do. I get you where you're not looking.
I don't know if I could have a superpower. I think at this point, I can only pick one.
Just one.
Just one?
I didn't think this would be this hard.
It is, because it's like I said, it's not something I've thought about. I think at this point in my life, in this stage, I'm going to say to not get injured, the ability to not be injured.
So you'd want like invulnerability.
Yes, I suppose.
Okay. I thought you were going to say like super flexibility, like Mr. Fantastic, or like a healing factor like Wolverine, or telepathy, so that you could always make the judges think that you got the score.
Oh, see, that I hadn't thought of. That's a good one. That's a good one.
So
That's
as
a
you
good
can
one.
tell, I spend way too much time.
Yes, I have, but I hadn't. I hadn't.
Well, listen,
Well,
Kathy, thank you. It's good to catch up with you, and it's always good when we get a chance to do these interviews to get to see a face that I've seen and known in real life and been in the holding area with you. And I wish you success. Good luck on your form. Do well in this event, and keep doing good work down there, working with your athletes and other Poomsae competitors. Stay inspired. And just know that as soon as we are able, USA Taekwondo is going to try to get us all back together. And it's going to be quite a family reunion when we all come back together. We might have to have an extra day just to stand around and be like, so what you been doing? Nothing. Been okay? Yeah, I've been okay. All right. But thank you again for taking time out to talk to us and be the champion that you are. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
This is Kathy Do from Florida. She's trained with Young Taekwondo.
Kathy, of course, a 7-time national team member, multiple-time medalist at the World Championships, and she holds the national team spot in this division for this year. Kathy's just so flexible. She makes these front kicks look easy. Very rotated on that base leg.
Very vertical, nice posture on those front kicks. And finishing up clean.
So we did see Kathy come in seeded fifth for this tournament. She didn't do the NCTA tournament, I think, but she's going to rock it up here because she just got a 7.9.
Oh, so close to that 8. Let's go, Kathy.
Let's go, Kathy. Let's go.
You get 8 on a Kumgang. Wow. We're all going to take
I think Karen did it at the Summer of Poomsae. She got that 8 on a Kumgang because I remember it being crazy. So it's totally doable, Kathy. Let's do it. Staying very low.
Ooh, nice turn. I like it. That belt's staying at a real consistent height as she's going to her right. You can see she goes up and down based on either her shoulder position, head position, or her belt moving across that line. Nice and smooth.
Right, you have to have really strong legs and core to keep that back straight, like she's doing a pretty good job of, and staying nice and low. This is a really great run for her.
Great, nice finish. What do you think for the score, Miyako?
I don't know if we're gonna hit an 8 on Kumgang, but I think she'll be pretty close to her first score.
Oh, look at that. 7.8.
Pretty close.
For Kumgang. You gotta be happy with that.
Yeah.
7.85. And into first place for Kathy Do. This is Allison Kittleson. She's from Virginia. She trains with Dynamic Taekwondo and Team Kim Bo-hyun.
Very deliberate on that bar coming forward, took her time. And a quicker draw, so not so much a soft draw on some of these techniques, but pretty accurate and holding those stances nicely.
Wow, nice front kick. These are the ones that really look for them to be vertical. So sometimes athletes are leaning forward, leaning back, where the bottom leg is sabotaging the whole thing. So it's easy for the referees to see and appreciate when somebody has a vertical posture and kicking straight up.
Paro.
Yeah, I think she could smooth out just some of her draws, especially in that middle front kick area. They were a little jerky, but otherwise really nice job.
So Allison receives a 7.17 for Taegook Paljang.
시작.
That's actually quite low. Her accuracy I thought was pretty good. So I'll have to pay attention here for Kumgang to see what the judges were seeing. I believe Ashley competed at the AAU national tournament and did quite well. So she's done Summer of Poomsae, other online tournaments. So she does have experience in this format. I think just maybe not quite her day on that first form for this division.
바로.
Good job on Kumgang keeping it all together. So she was trying to be pretty careful on some of those transitions so as not to lose balance. We've all been in that same position. It's like you're having a good run, don't mess it up. So be extra careful. But it comes out looking a little bit like that, right? Like kind of not as connected as we might want it to be sometimes when we do that. She gets a solid score, 7.117. So up next we have Ashley Lamb from Virginia. She trains at Daima Taekwondo.
We never had anybody tell us if it's Daima or Dima.
Oh, that's right.
For the Summer of Poomsae. Long reach there. Ashley finished 6th place in the Summer of Poomsae, and she came to Taekwondo late in life, but is looking forward to having lots of Taekwondo adventures. She's also a mom of 3.
She's under 40 years old.
But she started later. I believe she started when her children started competing, if I remember correctly. So she didn't grow up doing Taekwondo.
I see.
And I'm using her words. She says she's a late bloomer in Taekwondo and she loves
not
it.
Not at all. She's just a baby.
Right, exactly. She has so much time. You know, she's 39 actually, so just a couple more years in this division, and then she will be the young new spring chicken in the 50 and under.
She got easily another 35 years in Poomsae competition, at least at the very 7.13 for her first performance.
So we are seeing some movement here with the scores. We are getting, you know, all the way down low 6s all the way up to high 7s. So we are seeing a range in scores here, 13 athletes. Again, Ashley here is 11th out of 13, and we're taking the top 8 scores into finals. So it will be close. I'm excited to see who's going to make this cutoff because we do have a lot of good athletes.
Yeah, Ashley's doing a good job ending her hand and foot. At the same time, has some clean finishes. Maybe just a little bit more volume running through all of her performance would really help her score. It's kind of opening up on those presets a little bit.
And, you know, she's coached by Master Brian Joe and Esther Joe. So she has some really great coaches, and I think that she's just improved tremendously recently, like from the summer of Poomsae to here, just a few months, and she already looks cleaner. So I think she's just soaking up information like a sponge and is doing a really great job.
Yeah, it's working. Her accuracy is very good. Again, just smoothing it out a bit with a little bit more volume between the movements, right? I think the first thing we want to nail down is technique, and then, hey, how do we make it look even smoother through the preset? That's Ashley Lamb. She received a 7.13 for the first Poomsae Taegeuk Paljang, and now her Kumgang score coming up on the screen, 6.87. And her final score is 7.0. So we have just 2 athletes left in the division. This is Jessica Marie Ayers, a veteran in Taekwondo competition. She trains at Dwangale, USA under Master Sangjae Lee. She has an extensive competition record. Is usually a very solid performer.
Right, Jessica's very strong and always has a really solid kumgang as well. I think we saw that in the summer of Poomsae, so glad we get to see it again here in this semis. She also got married in the last couple of years and is now a certified massage therapist and specializes in Asian body work. So great teammate to have.
Hello.
And of course, in the summer of Poomsae, she competed in her backyard or patio area, but now in the dojang here for the Grand Slam.
Yeah, that was great when she did that. She had some restricted movement out there in her yard, I think, just because of the space. She gets a nice strong score here, 7.5. So I don't know if working in that small space has kind of impacted her movement at all in general. I noticed slightly shorter front stances than I've seen in the past. And that can easily happen when we have to train in a smaller space. I think we all kind of get surprised how quickly it impacts our performances. We look back on the recording and go, wait a minute, what just happened?
Right. Yeah, I know I can't do a full Poomsae run in my practice space. I don't have enough space to be able to do that. So then when I'm actually in a dojang to record, it feels weird to do a whole form without needing to readjust. So it definitely can play an impact. But overall, I think everybody's doing really great. That punching hand coming across is consistently angled down just a tad. So going to a nice straight back.
Going to the right, she had a little bit of some, oh geez, I gotta be careful moments on the Hakdari Sogi. This one looking a little bit stronger.
Hello. Yep.
Right, good performance for Jessica Ayers from Dwangale. So she had a 7.5 for her first performance of Taegeuk Paljang, and now is 7.37. Again, like many of the athletes suffering that Kumgang dip in the scores, and she receives a 7.433, but in good position here. So Kathy Doe clearly in the lead, followed by Rebecca Ong, Hillary Monaco, Jessica Ayers, April Min, Chloe Mercado, Allison Kittleson, and Ashley Lamb. Those are our top 8 so far, but we have one more athlete to go. And so that might change things up in the top 8. We'll have to wait and see. This is Carissa Fu from Massachusetts. She trains with CW Taekwondo at Boston under coach Dan Chuang. She's a multi-year national team member and always has strong performances in big events.
Right, this is her first year in this division, opening up strong. She medaled at the 2020 US Open and took second behind Kathy at the team trials for this year's World Championships. So Kathy, of course, has the national team spot, but Carissa was a close second and took the first place spot at the Summer of Poomsae, which helped her get this first place seed here. Very clean. I thought that she's shown some improvement in the speed of her hand techniques with the clean finish.
Yeah, look at that score, 7.73. And remember back, Kathy Doe received a 7.9. So she's really going to have to really bump up things here with Kumgang, but easily into the finals if she can maintain a score like that through Kumgang.
Right.
Drops down a bit going from the Hakdari Sogi to the Juchin Sogi, so maybe a little bit lower on that Hakdari Sogi. So we'll see here, does she drop down from stance to stance, or can she keep it consistent and level? A little bit lower. She feels a little bit more comfortable coming up higher on this stance here.
Yeah, that air track really is just a perfect line at her head height, which makes it easy to follow her height.
Yeah, sometimes we don't know all those things in the background are playing a role for sure. It helps the referees, right? Because they're not, you know, it's not an in-person event, so they're looking at anything to kind of gauge the start and end points, right? Lots of power for Carissa Fu, no problem there with the finishes. Just the transitions maybe from one stance to the height of the next stance. So she received a 7.73 for the first one, 7.63 for the second.
So this will be tight here.
Is that per second that you're looking at? That's tight. So she gets
yeah,
a 7.
with Rebecca Ong at a 7.6, but Carissa takes the second place spot.
Okay, so here's the standings for this under 40 female semifinal round. We have Kathy Doe in first, followed by Carissa Fu, Rebecca Ong, Hillary Monaco, Jessica Ayers, April Min, Chloe Mercado, and Allison Kittleson. Those are going to be our finalists. And here we are moving on to our female under 50 division. And there's the referees for the division coming on. So we see different referee teams for each of the different divisions today. This is Maya Geisler.
All right, and the two forms for this division are Jite and Shipjin. So we have 18 athletes in this 50 and under division semifinals. So we're going to take the top half of the, no, this is the semi, sorry. So we're taking the top 8 into finals. So it will be a pretty big cutoff here from 18 to 8. Jite and Shipjin, some longer forms, complicated. Jite has those 2 side kicks in alignment towards the camera and then towards the back. So I think it'll be a nice contrast of soft and then quick motions here in this division.
준비 시작.
So Shipjin, again, one of the forms we recommend athletes start forward a square, because right here going backwards, you do go back more than normal for forms. So yeah, looks like she tried to adjust her stances a little bit to try and stay in, but you could just step off the mats. I think for this tournament, it doesn't matter. And this is actually one of my favorite divisions to watch, Coach Brand, you know, the 50 and under, so 41 to 50 years old, 18 women here in the athlete. It's actually a bigger division than the senior 2 women. And I find that they're just so impressive. This division, of course, has some big heavy hitters we'll see towards the end of the division, but I'm just impressed by everyone who gets into this division. I think that they all come out really strong. And I love to see the 41 to 50 division.
And it's great to see how over the years these divisions have grown. The numbers have just gone up and up through the years. So Maya Geisler receives a 6.5 for that second Poomsae, following that 6.77. So she finishes with a score of 6.633. And up next we have Juliette Doe from Illinois. She trains out of Flying V martial arts. You know, the first years of the World Championship time period, like 2006 through 10, many of the divisions were fairly small, but they just got bigger and bigger with more and more interest, and also across the country, rather than most of the athletes coming from the East and West Coast. Now they're all over the place, so this is fantastic. So we have athletes in this division from California, Illinois, Massachusetts, Utah, Minnesota, New York, and North Carolina, as well as Texas and Washington. So quite a few states represented here.
Yeah, and Julia just opened up with a really great front kick. Let's check this. Yeah, quite flexible. A little bit low on some of these hand techniques. It could be the angle of the camera. Pretty good kicks here. Pretty good alignment. Again, I mentioned side kicks coming forward. First time since Sajang.
Hello.
And you know, with a score of 7.03 for Juliet's first Poomsae. Good score, quite a gap from our first athlete score.
Right, and like I mentioned, this division, again, 18 athletes with some well-known names, so they're going to have to get a high score to try and make it into the top 8 here and go to finals. A little bit of a late lean there into the back stance, but lots of power coming out in Shipjin. She's a good straight back there.
Yeah, really settled, looking good here. Nice posture, looking very strong, nice straight forward chin.
Great front kicks.
Yeah, good height on the front kick. This motion maybe a little bit short last time. Let's see where she ends up.
Hello.
A couple little moves with some sort of janky draws. But overall, I think really great power, pretty clean. I really liked that, actually.
Yeah, pretty consistent and solid throughout that Poomsae, so she gets a 7.2, so higher score there for her Sipjin. And she ends up with a 7.117.
준비.
So up next we have Jennifer Congleton from North Carolina.
시작.
She was seeded 15 coming into this event. So on my screen, her pants appear black. How about for you, Miyako?
Yeah, they also look black to me. This looks like maybe a male senior to Master 1 division uniform. So the women should have blue pants for this division. I think when they get up to the yellow coat, that's when you get the black pants for females.
Right. Although they say it's blue, it's actually black for the higher divisions with the gold. It says it in the official thing, it says it's gold and blue, but it's actually black. She's able to maintain her balance easily on those jeté side kicks, and now finishing up maybe a little bit lower on these stances would help her score. So we can see that distinct, difference between the back stance and the horse stance positions. So Jennifer gets a 5.67. So yeah, I think those stance improvements would go a long way in helping her score.
Good starting forward for Shipjin. Smart move.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Good job on that. So you're easily viewable. Leaning forward here a little bit on this form, so maybe shoulders back even with the hips would help. Yeah, just shifting the weight back a little bit would help. And then pivoting on the balls of the feet rather than the heels.
All right, Jennifer, in her spare time, she enjoys knitting and she makes hats for cancer patients. That's a really cool thing to do, and then donate them probably to hospitals where patients are getting cancer treatment. So it's a very nice way to use your time.
I think her best part of her poomsae is her power. This move is always so funny for athletes, right? To keep up with. Is it to the right? Is it to the left? Is it to the center?
Right. I feel like that move changes every couple of years. The boulder push, and is it a flat hand to the front, or is it an angled like a chop hand? So always just kind of checking. And I think it's nice. We've had a lot of Shipjin videos in this tournament, so lots of people to go back and watch and check on some of those accuracy parts.
So let's see, Jennifer received a 5.67 for the first one and a 5.3 for the second. And finishes with a 5.485. And as I mentioned, probably her strongest area for her poomsae is the power. So this is Natalia Satargina from Massachusetts. She trains at Kwan's Martial Arts. So she's in your area there, Miyako. Have you been at events with her?
Not that I recognize, but I haven't gone to many tournaments. I usually actually go up to Massachusetts to qualify with my teammates. But she's very flexible. She does train at one of my teammates' dojongs, though. So her coach is Viet Nguyen, who we saw in the male semifinals. This is one of his athletes. And right. She says it's her first year of competing, and she looks great.
It does. Needs to get into that Hakdari Sogi for those kicks. Really, very good. Tries to keep a good, strong tempo as she's moving through the lines. Natalia Sergina, the first poomsae, gets a score of 7.13. So that's a high score so far in the division for this first poomsae jeté.
Yeah, and she's doing this in her home, one of the few living room spaces that we've seen for this tournament. I think that she might benefit from a slightly larger space, but doing a good job to fit it in. We'll see the Shipjin going into the kitchen.
That's actually a pretty big space for her to be able to go from side to side here and not have to punch through that glass.
It would have been quite dramatic though.
Yeah, that would have been something.
So hands, I think maybe just checking on that angles of the hands on that push, but the front kicks coming forward just look great.
Those are wonderful front kicks. And now just finishing up strong.
And she's actually 49. She looks very young. So she's just a couple years left in this division and she'll be moving up as well. So I think she'll be very competitive when she gets into that 60 and under division.
So Natalia Sergina with a 7.17 for Sipchin. She had that 7.13 for first Poomsae, so she ends up with a 7.15. And this is Jolyn Nallon. She's from Utah and she trains with Shiba Taekwondo. She was seated in the 13th spot for this event.
It's hard to kind of get an idea for what kind of tempo they're going to take for Jite because there are so many slow motions right at the beginning. So everybody's tempo is sort of similar because you have to have those, 8 count motions.
And when you get on this line, it seems like some athletes are able to differentiate the slow motion from the quicker motion movements. And then some of the athletes are kind of slowing everything down to almost look like they're slow motion, but they're not. So you have to really be explosive after any of those 8 count motions so that things don't start to blend together. And all end up with kind of a mediocre speed. We're looking for that big contrast of those quick motions and those slow motion movements with Jite. So she receives a score of 6.97. If you're new to the form, it's really difficult to navigate how to move back and forth from that quick motion to that slow motion movement and make everything look smooth.
She's pretty close to the back there. We'll see if she fits in. Just barely.
Easy though. Chest pushed out and stomach pushed out a little bit too far on that one. So kind of maybe checking out the posture for that would help. And centering up these kicks. Also, they're off just a little bit to the left and right side. I like her timing on the slow motion movement though. Nice strong finish for the last few steps of Sipchin. So good job to Jolyn. The first score was 6.97. And now for Sipchin, score rolling in here at another 6.97. So same score for both Poomsae. So she finishes up with a 6.967. Here's our standing so far. We have Natalia in first place, followed by Juliet Doe, Jolyn Nolan, Maya Geisler, Jennifer Congleton, and I didn't catch that last one, Miyako.
That was actually Maria Kaiser. She had submitted or registered, but didn't submit any videos. So that's why she got that 0 score.
Oh, that's right. That was Maria Kaiser. Good point. So yeah, didn't quite get the opportunity to submit the video. It is challenging sometimes to meet the deadlines and make sure we meet the requirements. We have good quality video. So we'll catch you next time, Maria. Up now is Sue Burt from Minnesota. She trains at Minnesota Family Taekwondo.
So Sue is doing a pretty good job here of moving through the Poomsae, pretty comfortable tempo, not as slow. At the ending, again, we mentioned at the beginning, there are all those slow 8-count motions you have to hit. So nice that she is able to speed up the tempo at the end. And she gets a 7.17 for Jite. So that's actually the highest score for Jite so far. And Sue is the 7th athlete here out of 18. So we do need to start moving up into the 7s to move into the top 8 spots to get into the finals. A nice stack on the back stance there. A little bit of a balance check as she moves through that bar, but now comfortable. I'm pretty happy with all the stances. I think she's actually hitting those horse stances pretty parallel. So it's looking pretty good and a nice tempo as well. Nice front kicks coming forward above her head. This is a really solid run for Sue. A little bit of extra motion at the end of some of those stances, but overall, pretty good power and consistent in the stances. So she had a 7.17 on Jite, which was the highest score so far on that form. Now for Shipjin, a 7.27, a new high.
Nice bump up. Yeah, so she ends up with a 7.217 as a final score.
Hey, USA Taekwondo family, we're back at it. And this is your boy, Coach Sherman Nelson, and I'm one half of the dynamic duo. And I am chopping it up today with Rochelle Gonsalves. She's our interviewee for the moment. How are you, milady?
I am fine. Thank you so much, Coach, for having me.
It is my pleasure. Listen, we are excited about this opportunity because every time we do an interview like this, the USA Taekwondo family gets to know one of its members a little better. And I'm firmly convinced that the more we get to know each other, the more we'll like each other, and the more we'll connect and make our organization better and stronger. And this is a part of that process. So thank you for taking time out of your day today to talk with us. All right, so give us the important details. Tell us who you are, where you are from, where you train, name of your dojang, what division, all of that good stuff.
Okay, absolutely, yes. So I'm originally from Hawaii. I was born and raised there, and I met my husband in Hawaii. He is not originally from Hawaii, although he was born in Hawaii. He ended up growing up in upstate New York, and so he was going to graduate school, and that's where he and I met. And so from Hawaii, we moved to New York, and so when we got into Taekwondo, we had 2 kids at the time, and we were looking for something for the kids to do. And we found Master Kim's Taekwondo up in Rochester, New York, under Master Sung Kim. And we started our training there. And Grandmaster Kim is a wonderful person, wonderful coach and a business owner, as you know. And it was my son and my daughter and my husband who ended up starting Taekwondo under him. And I was pregnant at the time with our third child. So I did not start until at least 5 years after they started. And
Wow.
so I was a little older, right? Older adult. And the thing that got me was not just watching them and seeing how the program was so beneficial to my kids and also to my in terms of health, but for the kids, it was the character building and the discipline that they were learning. But do you recall back in, and I believe it was 2009, so at least 10 years ago, my daughter at the time, she was starting to compete. And you guys probably remember how it wasn't state tournaments, but it was regional tournaments throughout the US.
Right.
So we were at a regional, and there's probably like 4 or 5 across the entire nation, right? So we attended the Buffalo Regional Tournament.
Regional qualifier. Yep.
Correct. And that year in particular, it was a team trials year. And so I was watching and I was in awe of seeing the older adults competing. And I knew I wasn't doing Taekwondo at the time, but I saw that and I knew right away I wanted to start Taekwondo because I wanted to compete just like they did. So that was my driving force behind me starting, aside from the fact that my husband and my 2 children were already doing it. So I started, my little one was 5 at the time, and he didn't come along until a couple years later when he was 7 was when he started. Okay. So all 5 of us are in Taekwondo, and we'd all been doing Taekwondo, and we are all black belts in Taekwondo. So wow. the seeing those ladies and those men competing, and that, like I said, was my driving force of why I wanted to start it. So from day one of me starting, that was an ultimate goal that I had of continuing my training and continuing Taekwondo. But I have had so many, not just from the competition aspect of it, but just from being a student of Taekwondo and learning the art in itself. I've learned so much and gained so much from that.
This warms my heart because this is what we ultimately want. We say this all the time. We want this to be a thing for families to do together, that there is something for you and your children and your husband. And I'm grateful that, you guys are like the Taekwondo family poster family. So I love it. I love it. Listen, so are disputes settled in your house with Poomsae or with board breaking or with Guryugi, with fighting?
A little bit of all 3 of those, yes.
So can I be invited to the, once this all settles down and we can travel freely, I would love to come and hang out with the Gonçalves family and just meet and start trouble and get things going and just sit in the back and watch mom come fly over the couch with a sidekick. Yeah, I would love that. Listen, so tell me, what's it like competing online? I mean, you got to go to an event and you took us back to our regional events, which brings back all these memories, but that was in person. Tell me what it's like for you competing in an online capacity.
Yes, so online, I think it's a wonderful idea and a wonderful opportunity for many of us. So I was able to compete in 2 online tournaments since the shutdown. And the first one the format was very similar to how USA Taekwondo was doing it with video submission. And I've also competed in a live Zoom online tournament as well. So having both, they're both equally wonderful, but both different in itself, right? And I think it's such a wonderful opportunity, mainly because it keeps Poomsae athletes like myself continuing to train and to get better. And also with the online format, I may not have been able to travel to a European country and compete, but given the online format, it allows many of us to be able to do that as well. I do miss it. I've been at a nationals and competed in nationals from 2014 till 2019, right? And 2020 at the Grand Slam. And there's something about being in person that you I really miss it. I miss the buzz, the vibe, the energy that you have from being at the location, just the sounds that you hear, all the different senses that kick in when you're standing on the mat and they tell you to begin. So I really truly miss all of that. But yes, this is a great opportunity for many of us to be able to continue and hone the skills that we have. So.
Yeah, I think it is there is nothing, those mats have a smell, and you know that smell when you step on those mats, and that smell is a part of the triggering process to get your mind ready to be about your business. And if you've never competed, you don't know what we're talking about. But if you have, everybody who's been out there knows the smell of that mat, and you know that's when you know it's go time. So listen, we are grateful. Thank you for taking time out of your day. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for joining your husband and your children. And then now we have the whole Gonçalves family to continue to push forward in Taekwondo. Listen, we want to wish you the best of luck at this event. I want you to go out there and knock them dead. And at the next event, we want to try to let's see how many of you we can get on camera to talk to at the same time. Because I bet the children will have an interesting story to tell about that one time. Mom, you remember that one time? And do you remember that one time? It's always a good intro to a good story.
Yes.
All right.
I have a lot of do you remember that one time when it comes to me. Yes, there's many of those stories. Absolutely. Yes.
Great.
My two sons will be competing later, so you'll get a chance to meet them as well. Perfect.
Awesome. Listen, Grandmaster Kim is an awesome guy. We got a chance to do an interview with him. He is a great businessman, grandmaster, school owner, but he's a great guy. And he is who we want our school owners to be. And so please give him my best. Tell him that I respect and appreciate everything that he's doing. Even at the onset of all this, he made himself available to help everybody that he could help. And that's not easy to forget. So we appreciate him. And to the rest of our New York family, East Coast family, you guys stay safe up there, and we'll see you soon. All right.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And up next, we have Rachel Gonçalves for this event in the 11th seed. She's from New York and trains with Master Kim's Taekwondo Institute.
Right, Rachel is really great. I think she didn't compete at one of the tournaments, so her seating is a little bit lower, but she's very flexible, very accurate, and has some really nice technique. So I'm excited to.
Wow, yeah, she is super clean going through the beginning of this Poomsae. Impressive.
And Rachel's whole family competes in Taekwondo. She has many children, and they all compete at Poomsae.
This is what I was referring to before, being able to demonstrate the contrast between the slow motion and quick speed and power of the other techniques, and she's doing a really great job of that. Really nice look here on the stances, very clean.
Hello.
So Rachel gets a 7.6 for her first Poomsae. Well deserved. That form was really very clean.
That was a great performance, and yeah, a big jump in scores here.
시작.
I'm looking forward to this first dance here. She has a really nice, a little bit forward, but in Jite, the back stances were so clean, upright, vertical. Yeah, just a little bit off on the positions here, but I'm being super picky because she's very, very good. Little outward motion with the horse stance feet, a little off on this back stance, but I think she picked this video because the jeté was just so clean. Nice slow motion movement here. Correct movement there on Sipchen. So we've seen a lot of variations of how to do that slow motion movement so far in the division. So we'll see it coming forward and see if it looks nice and clean from this angle. Really nice speed off of her front kicks. So right off the floor, she's really very fast on that. And good finish there. Good job on the Sipchen. I'm going to say maybe not quite as high of a score on Sipchen as she got on jeté, but I could be wrong. Maybe the referees are looking at something just a little bit different. So she got a 7.6 on jeté, yeah, and a 7.53 on Sipchen. Just some little tiny things there that I'm sure that she can work on as she sees the video. She gets a total score of 7.567 and easily into first place. Up next, we have Julie Erickson from Minnesota. She trains with World Taekwondo Academy. Nice long stances on the front stance.
And I think it was this dojang from the summer of Poomsae, they all had their video on the ground.
Yeah, just like anything else, if it's up too high or down too low, really does impact what we're seeing. It's almost like we're looking uphill, right? So it throws us off a little bit as a viewer, and maybe doing the same thing to the referee. Almost looks like she's coming downhill as she's moving forward. So again, this is Julie Erickson wrapping up Sipchen here. She looks like she's improved quite a bit over time. She's at a World Taekwondo Academy. And for first Poomsae jeté, she gets a 6.93. So some sections of that was really good. And then other things she just needs to do a little cleaning maybe, and then maybe a little bit of work on those side kicks there like we all need to do. And now moving forward on Sipchen. So she's got this nice long approach to the front stance, which I appreciate. So she's really trying to reach out. This one out maybe just a little bit too far on the back stance. Nice position here. I'm looking forward to seeing her front kick. So we're anticipating stuff here to the slow motion movement. We get all excited because we know front kicks are coming up. Good job on those on that line, staying balanced. And a strong finish there for Julie Erickson. So she received a score of 6.93 for her first Poomsae. And now her score for Sipchen rolling in at a 6.83, just slightly lower. And finishing up with a 6.883. And up next we have Jennifer Mitchell from Illinois. Wow, look at her trying to reach out, really trying to extend her stance. So we got to go full 8 counts on those. This one too.
You know, it looks like she's doing this on a track. So that can't be a comfortable place to be doing these transitions on her feet.
No, she made it look pretty easy though. So she looked pretty smooth.
Yeah, she did.
Right, so she had 6.97 on that. And although the side kicks probably didn't feel great to her, she, you know, it was something we always battle with on jeté. She did that really, really good, really well done on that section there. So now going into Sipchen, everybody always breathes a little sigh of relief after finishing the jeté. She's a little forward on his back stance, so maybe shifting her weight back just a little bit would help. So you can see what I mean. Just a little weight shift to the rear. That'll be really helpful for her.
Yeah, she does have just a bit of a lean forward on some of these stances.
And really building up here to the front kick section, we're really going to be able to see that height payoff. She's really looking great, nice and tall and upright on that front kick section.
Yeah, that was a really great bar for her. She does need to tuck her hips in a little. I think as she's trying to sink low in the stance, her hip is popping out. So really just tucking the hips underneath to keep a flat back as you go down.
And 7.07 for Sipchen, that's something that's very common and we keep going back to because it really does impact the posture if somebody has that lower back arch. She receives a final score of 7.017. And now we have Shannon Hoda from North Carolina. She's from Tiger Kim's World Class Taekwondo.
And Shannon competed in the Summer Poomsae, finished 7th. So making it to the finals, trying to repeat that again here today. Not quite as high of kicks as some of the other athletes, but very clean in her hand techniques and pretty clean body movement as well.
Right, that was a good run. A little bit low on some of those knife hand blocks, a little off on the accuracy of those, but in general, a really good performance from Shannon. She gets a 7.2. And very consistent scores from the judges on both accuracy and presentation.
You know, we're about a little over halfway through this division now. We have 18 athletes, and I have no idea what that cutoff is going to be to the finals.
Yeah, me either. So we have that top 8 that we're looking for. Out of this 18, it's going to be kind of a brutal cut going into the finals for these athletes because they're all doing a really good job.
Right. The high score right now is a 7.567 from Rachel.
We have some veteran athletes coming up, so it's going to be interesting to see if there's any scoring shift with these last 7 athletes following Shannon. Oh, nice front kicks coming up. Nice height.
Yeah, that's such a dynamic bar for Shipjin. You get the front kicks, the only kicks in the form. A nice solid finish there for Shannon.
She had a 7.2 in her first Poomsae. And now for the second, 7.27. Good job, a little higher score there. So Shannon Hodak will finish up with a final score of 7.233. Up next, we have Yan Cho. She's from California and trains at World Champion Taekwondo Academy.
Opening up with some nice solid front stances. A little bit of a heel pickup on one of those transitions, but very solid here for the 8 counts.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Just that heel popping up a little bit. Just got to transition by shifting the weight a little bit more before stepping.
She has a great demeanor. She was just coming straight towards that camera, looking right at us. Very solid.
Yeah, good side kicks there. Not quite low enough on the Hatari Sogis, but those side kicks look great. So Yen receives a nice score, 7.37.
Big score.
That's a really big score. That's the highest score, right? Because
No,
the
so
next one is 7.27.
Rachel had a 7.6.
Oh,
so
I was
she's
looking
holding on
at,
to first.
Sue Bird.
Yeah.
Yeah, then Sue Bird must be in third there on that form.
Yeah, Shannon Hodak, who just sneaked into second place with that 7.233, just over Sue with the 7.217. But Yen here coming in with that 7.37 is giving her an opportunity to sneak into second place if she can hold on here with Shipjin. Little bit of a rise and fall there as she started this push block. You want to keep your height the same as your hands move. Also hands on the chest for those double punches. Instead, you want to have those off to the side on your hip. Both hands on one hip rather than on your chest. Like they were for those transitions. But overall, very nice performance from Yen Cho.
So following up that 7.37, let's see how the score rolls in. It's pretty smooth motion through most of that Poomsae there was Sipchin. So she gets a 7.2. And finishes up with a 7.283. So does that put her in second place? Yes. So Rachel Gonzalez Birds, followed by Yin Cho, Shannon Hodak, Sue Bird, Natalia Sergina, Juliet Doe, Jennifer Mitchell, and Jolynn Nolan so far into the finals. But anything can change because we do have, I think it's 6 or 7 more athletes to go, right? So plenty of change can happen here. So we have Shannon Call up next from Illinois. Training at, is that Aki?
I think so, yeah.
Arts.
And we should all recognize Shannon from her freestyle Poomsae. I think she has a gymnastics background because she throws backflips so easily.
And it's great to see freestyle athletes in this division. So I think we have 2 athletes who've been in the freestyle competition, both Shannon and Twa Win.
That's right. Twa also recently started gymnastics training over the last couple of years. But Shannon has really improved her recognized Poomsae over the last couple of years, training really hard and working her way up in the rankings as well.
So Shannon came in at the number 6 seed position, and for first Poomsae gets a 7.03.
So right now that will get her into the finals. The cutoff right now is a 6.967. So it's going to be very close. She'll need to bump up here since there are 5 more athletes after her.
Right, she wants to get a really safe score, moving it up a little bit more.
Taking a little bit of a quicker tempo here, but some of those draws are still a little jerky. So smoothing out the draw, I think will help her overall presentation and just make it flow a little nicer. Pretty good front kicks coming forward.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe softening up a lot of those presets, right? So that preparation movement that happens during the transition, maybe softening that up a little bit and then connecting a little bit more will help her score improve over time. So she received a 7.03 for that first Poomsae and a 7.13 for this one. This comes in with a total score of 7.083.
Jimmy.
Which is safe for now, right, Miyako?
Right. I think she might be in 7th right now, but we do have these 5 athletes left to go.
Right, and this is Krista Danielwitz, also a veteran competitor. She's from Illinois and trains at Family Martial Arts. She's been in many tournaments. Looks like she was just at the AAU championship.
Yeah, so she got 2nd place at AAU Nationals just recently over the past few weeks. And finished, I believe, 5th place in the summer of Poomsae. So here came in 5th place for that seating, and let's see if she can boost herself up a little bit. She's very tall, so I feel like she has to stay grounded, but so far no kumgang, so she can show some nice kicks and length in these stances.
Good job on that right side kick. And then trying to finish strong. I see that her stances have improved quite a bit over time.
Right, she was pushing really low in those last 4 stances.
Right. Good score, 7.37. That's the same score that Yen Cho received.
That's right, yeah.
Well, off to a nice start on Sipchin. I like that opening. Well, her stances have really improved. She has progressed a lot in terms of her balance, and her general measurements of all of these formed stances are much more accurate.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that first opening line. She stayed really low, and that back stance would just be really long on me, but because her legs are so long, she can make it that, just a little bit longer and sink low into the stance, and it just looked really great. Solid clicking into the stances, and it's coming across really well.
Good height on the front kicks.
Hello.
Wow, very impressive progress from Krista Danowitz out of Illinois at Family Martial Arts.
Wow.
So she received 7.37. Yeah, that was a really good performance. 7.57. Nice, solid scores. So coming in with a 7.467. And into around, what was that, maybe second place?
I think second place.
This is Sheena Kim from Flying V in Illinois. This setting here, looks a bit, of course, like it's in maybe a home space, and looks very theatrical. It makes her legs, for some reason, and arms, her limbs look really long and clean in this space.
Yeah, I remember this from the Summer of Poomsae, and I don't think that it was quite this wide. So it's nice she's opened it up for Shipjin.
At the same time, it's narrow enough that it kind of creates this frame for her, which really highlights her limb length. Very nice. Good
And making an effort to stay low in those crane stances too.
Right. Really clean performance from Sheena Kim. Good job on that.
Right. Sheena is the 2020 and 2021 AAU Sport Poomsae National Champion and team member there. So nice results for her there, and a 7.4 here.
That's the high. No, not quite the high in this one. Did Rachel Gonzalez get a 7.6 in that?
She did, yeah.
Okay.
But this is the second highest score so far for GT.
Look at that. Nice posture. Needs all that space that she has there.
Yeah, perfect use of that one extra square.
Yeah, oh, look at that. Just barely clears the curtain.
Yeah, she's perfectly spaced out this form.
I wonder how that feels to be in an enclosed space like that. At least these three walls here. I wonder if it feels very secure and allows you to really have things to focus on because everything's so nice and close to you and tight. Sometimes when we're in big spaces, we can get kind of lost. So it might be kind of nice to be in a space like this.
Yeah, it might help with hearing the sound as well. It can sound really strong because the sound can reverberate off of those enclosed space, although it is curtained, so maybe not.
So Sheena received a 7.4 for her first form and even higher here, 7.47 for the second. So this is going to be close here, 7.433. That's in the top 4 somewhere, I think, right, Miyako?
Yeah, so she goes just behind Krista, who went right before her, just by a few hundredths of a point. But I think they will definitely both make it to the finals.
Right. This is Maria Sokolova from Texas at Lee's US Taekwondo. Recognized individual performer as well as a female team member.
You know, we've seen Maria for a few years now. She was on the 2019 national team in the senior 2 division with teammates Catherine Finkelstein and Chuyat Tung, and they competed at the President's Cup. But she's also done the Lentz Online tournament and the NCTA tournament, Summer of Poomsae, where she finished with a bronze medal. So here coming in 3rd place, trying to see if she can hold on to it.
Right. I had the pleasure of coaching that team at that event in 2019. Really highly coachable 3 athletes in that team, really ready to learn and do whatever they could to succeed at that particular tournament, and then kind of in a long-term way too. So really open to suggestion and willing to do whatever was needed. And here's a 7.53 for that first Poomsae, a nice big score.
Yeah, so far Rachel's able to hold on to that first place spot with her combined score of 7.56.
That 7.6 helped her write that first form, 7.6.
Absolutely.
It was really hard to get there after that. Good position here, good posture. These arms a little off, one higher than the other on both of those.
A little bit of a rise and fall there again as she reached to her hip for that 5-count push, but otherwise pretty steady.
Yeah, kicking at about her head height through all 3 of those. She settles real nice into those stances. It's a good form for Maria Sokolova out of Texas. So her first Poomsae, she got a score of 7.53, a nice high score there. Rachel Gonzalez still holding on to the high for that one of 7.6. Maria Sokolova getting a 7.57 for a second
It's gonna be close here.
Yeah, very close. So she ends up with a 7.55. And this is Twa Win from Washington. She trains at Taekwondo to Excel. And she's our current U.S. National Poomsae team member for 2020. And this year is a world championship year, so she's on the world championship team. She's multi-talented, comes in as an individual, recognized athlete as well as pairs and team, and also has been on freestyle team. And what I mean by on freestyle team, I meant training in and competing in the freestyle team division.
Right, and she can throw a back tuck probably as easily as, her great sidekick. So a very impressive athlete here in this 50 and under division. And of course, Twa is 49, so on the top end of this division as well. Wow.
Yeah, she'll be moving up next year, just like her teammate Kathy Doe will be moving up to this division. Twa will be moving up to the next division.
And I have to just tell you a fun story about Twa. She helped rescue and then help the squirrel recover. Oh my gosh, wait, pause. 8.03.
Wow. Holy cow.
Massive score, 4.6.
Wow. This is a great episode. We've had 2 8s, right, in this episode?
That's right. Yeah, I think Karen got one and now Twa.
This is great. Look at this positioning here. Look at nice and solid. Oh, what if we get 2 in a row?
Okay, Twa has to do it so we can have a combined score of 8 on the scoreboard. But I have to tell you about the squirrel. Coach Brand, Twa rescued the squirrel. And so now the squirrel is all adult and lives, and I think the squirrel's name is Boris. Right. And it ended up being a female squirrel, but her name is still Boris. And she comes and visits Twa couple times every day. Or maybe it is a he. And so Twa likes to eat nuts out with her little squirrel Boris every day, which is just the cutest story.
I think she bottle fed that squirrel.
She did.
It's a very Twa-like thing to do. And here she is, really going to blast up with these front kicks. A little extra scoot on that last movement there. Really solid here.
Okay, so the big question, Coach Brand, can she get another 8 for a combined score of 8?
I think it's going to be pretty close. Sipchin's a little bit of a funny form. Sometimes referees, pick everything apart. There you go. There's a 7.97, but what's the combined score going to be? That's the question.
8.0, 8.0.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Oh, that's our first 8.0.
You did it.
Combined score of 8.0. Good job to Twa Huynh, but we still have up here our number 1 seed from Texas, Sungjin Lee.
Right, so Sungjin Lee won first place in the Summer of Poomsae, edged out Twa, but this tournament, a 16.0, has twice the number of ranking points available.
And this is going to be really great because she looks fantastic at the beginning here of Jite.
I almost want to say this is another like Alex versus Ethan off, because we're getting a lot of power here, but almost a little effortful. Whereas Twa does make things look very easy.
Right, she's more
not quite as smooth.
Right, in this scenario, this would be Ethan's son, and Twa would be Alex Lee, or vice versa, however you want to.
No, I think that's right, but Twa is not quite the smooth style that Alex has, almost more like a Carissa Westman with those pauses, but very clean.
Okay, 7.73. So she's going to have to make up quite a bit to catch up. However, that's a really great score, and staying consistent will get her in that finals, which is really the purpose of semifinals. So we don't want to get too much ahead of ourselves.
Exactly. This is just the semis. So these forms, as long as they get into the finals, they'll go again with 2 more forms to try and get those points. So this is just the order for the finals for the top 8 athletes.
Yeah, she is just popping. Bang, bang. She's got some great timing.
Yeah, she's always been in competition right up there, but she's just come out in this last year or so very, very strong and giving these athletes a run for their money, including Twa, the world champion.
Yeah, this is a highly talented highly skilled division here. Sometimes,
Absolutely. Like I said at the beginning, one of my favorites to watch.
right. Sometimes folks assume that as athletes move to the next division, that somehow they're going to be the skill level is going to go down a bit, but that's not the case at all. Putting these athletes next to the senior one or senior two, you're going to see some really highly contested Poomsae.
Absolutely. I would be terrified to compete against Twa myself, or Kathy, or many athletes.
Terrified. Good word. Well, you'll be up there soon. 7.7 for the second Poomsae, following that 7.73. So easily into the finals for Songjin Lee. Finishes with a 7.717. So here are the standings. Twa Win in first, followed by Songjin Lee by a pretty good sized gap. Then Rachel Gonzalez, Maria Sokolova, Krista Danielewicz, Sheena Kim, Yensho, and Shannon Hodda. Those are the top 8 in that division. And so they'll move on to the final round.
And here are the rest of those scores for the 18 athletes who are in this division.
The female youth black belt semifinal round, and here are your referees. Again, we changed the referee teams from division to division. And our first athlete is Livia Vial from Zhong's Taekwondo Martial Arts. So we saw this preliminary round in a past episode. In this, wow, did you see that kick? In this round, the athletes will do choreo and Taeguk 7. So this is Livia Vial from Zhong's Taekwondo Martial Arts in Kansas. And her score, 6.97.
And we got to see these athletes in the prelim round. So now we have the top 11 here with us in the semis and taking the top 8. So thankfully, we're not going to have to drop too many athletes to go into the finals.
We're
A little bit of a
used
heel
to-
lift.
Yeah, a little bit. We're so used to seeing masks now. It's as if they're not wearing a mask. It almost isn't invisible, right, Miyako?
That's right. We haven't seen many athletes competing with a mask at the tournament, but at normal practices, I normally see everybody in a mask.
So Livia Vial, she received a 6.97 for the first Poomsae and 7.07 for the second. Up next, we have Olivia Moon from Korea Taekwondo Center in New Jersey.
Lots of power, very high kicks, but maybe still working on getting that flow move to move.
A nice high extension. And again, this is Olivia Moon from New Jersey, training at Korea Taekwondo Center.
She's just off that line where she started here too, so she's gonna have to cut over on this last bar a little bit.
바로.
I think saves it with that paro there.
And she receives a score of 6.83.
시작.
It's nice seeing these young athletes do take Chojang. They,
Right, it's one,
they have
very
their
complex.
I think I was going to say the same thing you were. Go ahead, Miyako, about the complexity.
I was going to say it's a very complex dynamic form with a lot of hand techniques, and it can take a while to work through it. So getting to do it in a competition can be nice, because then you can look back at it and see how much you've improved over the time as you keep working on it.
Right, and it's a good time. So once you find out that it's a designated Poomsae, you can meet up with your coach or master instructor and get lots of attention into Taegu Chojang and make sure each one of those steps is correct. So that's a 7.0 for Taegu Chojang. So Olivia Moon's final score is 6.917. And here we have Sofia Hernandez from Texas, training with Texas Forge Taekwondo. She came in to the competition in the number 5 seed spot.
Had a little bit of a balance issue on those opening double side kicks, but very flexible, long legs too for this youth division. Looks like she could already be a cadet. You know, interestingly, the first two competitors got a lower score on choreo than they did on Taeguk 7. I think of Taeguk 7 as pretty complicated and sometimes scores can dip, but both of the first two athletes bumped up their score. So we'll see here what Sophia can do with both of her scores. For choreo, she gets a 6.97, so tied with Olivia, who went first.
I think the more you do children, the more you see the opportunity to really time some things quite nicely. Use your core strength a little bit more by using it for those 2 turns there, for example. And right here as well, where you put a little bit of your core motion into it, as long as you can finish nice and clean. It affords an athlete a lot of opportunity to kind of interpret it in a way that works best for their body.
Sneaked her way back to that starting line on the last bar there. I think she could extend a couple of her front stances. She might have been trying to get back. At the top, they looked a little shallow, but overall, I think that looked really nice for Sofia Hernandez.
So she did bump up her score here with this one with a 7.17. Pretty consistent scores there across the judging. She finishes up with 7.067.
준비.
So into second place for her. Up next, we have Sophia Kim from Virginia. She's with Ichthus Taekwondo team. Wow, look at that reach. Really nice extension.
She has a lot of power for this 10 to 11-year-old division.
Yeah, she really does. She's really emphasizing the end of the movement there. Trying to get some pop on the end of each technique.
Very fast connected movements there on the last bar.
Mhm. So Sophia Kim from Virginia, training with ICTA's Taekwondo team, gets 7.27. That's our highest score so far. Choreo.
Yeah, first choreo score in the 7s and up there by 0.27 too.
Quite a bit.
시작.
Yeah, really good timing. A lot of athletes, they rush through this section here, never really give them a chance, give themselves a chance to extend each of the technique, but she was not rushing at all. Sometimes it makes the hand techniques look very short and blurred together, but she was able to make each one of those look distinct. So Sophia Kim, she received a score of 7.27 for that first Poomsae. And now it's 7.4, so a nice strong score for that one. So it moves her handily into the lead. The nice size little gap is 7.333.
Yeah, that's a big gap, and that should help her because, again, we have 11 athletes here in the semis, taking the top 8 only into the finals.
Right, this is Gwen Legaspi. She trains at Hans Taekwondo Center in California. If I'm not mistaken, I think the last time we saw her in Summer Poomsae, she was in a home setup that was pretty narrow, that multiple family members used to compete in. Was that right, Miyako?
I think that's right. It was very narrow width-wise. I bet you Teguk 7 wouldn't have fit in that space or this choreo bar here.
Right. So it's nice to see that she's able to return to her club for this competition. She was seated number 7 for this competition. So it's Gwen Legaspi at a Hans Taekwondo Academy, and her first form 7.07. So the highest, second highest score for choreo. Oh, nice high kicks. Look at that.
Yeah, those front kicks are going to help her score, but with the 7, of course, only those 2 front kicks at the beginning and then the 2 crescent kicks at the end. But the ones that we got to see at the beginning were so nice.
Oh, a whole lot of hand techniques starting there. And again, doing a good job of making each one of these look distinct. It's a nice clean ending.
And to make it into the finals here, you need to beat 3 other athletes. So we're taking the top 8 of 11.
Good job to Gwen Legaspi. She got 7.07 for the first Poomsae choreo. Now here for Take a Chill Jump, she gets a slightly higher score, 7.17. So she ends up with a 7.117. And is that in second so far, Miyako?
7.1. Yes, that is second place for now. So she did beat out 3 people and will make it into the finals.
So this is Abigail Fierce Scrabak from North Carolina, trains at Tiger Kim's world-class Taekwondo. And I really hope she sees it as a compliment and is not irritated by my nickname for her.
I really like watching Abigail. Here's the Ethan Chen of the youth female black belt division. She is just so strong.
Ethan Chen or Ethan's son?
Sorry, Ethan's son.
Oh, okay. Yeah, looking really good. Really trying to power up on each of these hand techniques. Gives herself plenty of time.
Yeah, very clean hands for just 10, 11 years old in this division. And she has a really great pull. So both hands doing work here, not just the hand that's doing the block, but the hand that's doing the elbow thrust is working just as hard. And it gives a really nice visual with both hands pushing and pulling.
Good job to Abigail on choreo. She gets a 7.27, which is a tie with the other high score that came in from Sophia Kim.
That's right. And Sophia Kim did really boost up to a 7.4 on this second form. So let's see if Abigail can do the same.
She's leaning forward a little bit on these Poomsae, so maybe pull that posture in a little bit and see what you can do there. That will make a little bit of a difference maybe in the presentation.
But look at her power. There's so much power.
There is tons of power. Really nice transition. No heel pops, no bad pivots. It's looking good. Sneaking her way back to the line.
Yeah, I do see that just slight lean forward that you mentioned. She could work on that just a little, but really nice power overall. I guess if she added a little softness, especially like between the scissor block motion, it's a little bit of a harsh stop between the two. So connecting, but really nice.
And it's hard to dial that up and down, especially, well, for all of us, but maybe especially for youngsters. 7.2 for the second form. To have that kind of sensitivity and body awareness, that's going to be a big step for her. 7.233 for Abigail's Spears Scrabback. Here's the standings. We got Sophia Kim in first, followed by Abigail, Gwen, Legaspi, Sophia Hernandez, and I did not catch the rest of those, but I'm sure you saw them on the screen. This is Anna Chang, who was in the number 13 seed going into the event, competing here at Eagle Taekwondo in California.
Nice front kicks coming forward. Not the highest side kicks that we've seen so far today, but her upper body didn't move at all. So it's a really nice extension without too much of a dip on the upper body.
Good job to Anna Chang. I'm wondering how this pace is going to play out for her. She picked a little bit slower pace and then ends up with a 7.07. So that's the same score that Gwen Legaspi got on Poomsae. So let me see if maybe she can power up and speed it up just a little bit. Looks like she might feel a little bit more comfortable with this Poomsae. Good job to Anna Chang on that second Poomsae. She chose a pretty moderate speed on that one. So we're going to see how that plays out too for her. So 7.07 is what she received for that first Poomsae. And now the same score for the second. So she receives a final score of 7.067. So it's going to be pretty tight up here. Find out who makes it to the finals. This is Emma Lee from New York. She was in the number 3 seed spot going into this event. She trains at Team East. So we have a lot of athletes in this division, kind of in a very small margin here between the scores. So it's going to be interesting to see who makes it to the finals. So we have 11 athletes total in the division. We're going to be taking the top 8. So she doesn't have too much of a pivot in that side kick. She's able to get it up pretty high considering that. Good, and a good finish to the form. So she finishes that form with a 6.87. So she's in that same range that Olivia Moon was in, and also, yeah, right in that same range as Olivia Moon. So let's see if she can boost up the score here. She's got nice high front kicks. Get a little forward on these. Nice and accurate crescent kicks going back. Good job on those. So Emily had a 6.87 on the first Poomsae, and she was hoping for maybe a real high score on this Taeguk Chojung to guarantee her a spot in the finals. She does boost it up significantly. Look at that, with a 7.17. So much higher score than that 687. So she ends up with a 7.017. So here is Mika Chi from California. She trains with Taekwon Kids, and by the look of it, also with Team M. Nice high extension on those side kicks. And really good height on his front kick line. Really good extension. I think next step for her, maybe just increasing the power a bit, but boy, what great extension and flexibility. Looking for a nice solid finish. Maybe a little core movement here to help her get that power. That might be helpful. Tons of potential here for Mika Chi from California. So she receives a nice score, 7.3. So that's a very good score. And I believe the highest score so far for choreo. So in a really good position here. Really good. I think she might even get a higher score for this Poomsae here. Yeah, good timing on that back line. So that's Mika Chi from California. She got a 7.3, huge score, 7.3 for choreo. Let's see what happens for Taeguk 7. Yeah, 7.2 for the second one. I thought that one might be a little bit higher, but they could really see the extension maybe on choreo. So maybe gave her a little bit higher score for that. So 7.25. And into first place by just a little bit over, I think it is Abigail Scrabet. This is Kata Arian from North Carolina. Also trying to show off that flexibility there and extension. It's really great that she has just enough space, foot peeking over the edge for choreo. Looks like she's on a space that's about maybe 4x5 mats, just enough for her until maybe she grows a little bit more. And now to the clean finish. Great, so that's Kata Arian from North Carolina. And just finishing up choreo, she gets a huge score of 7.43. So she was in the number 4 seed spot coming into this event. And the seed spot were determined by the result in the Summer of Poomsae and the NCTA tournament. So some of these athletes may have competed in one or both of those or neither of those. So that's what the seeding was based on. Good, nice finish there for Taegu Choja. Pretty consistent through the pace or tempo, rhythm, everything staying uniform through the Poomsae. So we'll see if that's enough to push her even further. So it gets another 7.43. That's a big score, especially with just one athlete to go in the division. So she ends up with a score of 7.433. And into first place. So this is Miriam Abdelrasol from California. She trains at Eagle Taekwondo. Yeah, in the first round in the preliminary, she really showed off her kicking extension and doing the same here. Really able to align everything and make it look fairly easy. Front kicks go well above her head. And so with her height advantage, it really shows off in this division. I mentioned in the past that she looks like she's almost the height of a junior athlete rather than a youth athlete. And her being able to balance these kicks is really outstanding because we know she's probably growing at a really quick pace. So for her to be able to keep up with that is amazing. Good, so nice solid finish to choreo. So she receives the highest score in the division for that, 7.6. And the judges all fairly consistent in the scoring. Nice posture here, nice vertical posture. We've mentioned that several times. Looks really great when the posture is so upright. A little lean forward on those. And you pull that back a little bit. Head's kind of jutting a little bit forward. But again, being picky. And arms swinging out just a little bit between those motions. So that's Miriam Abdelrasol. So the first form, she received a 7.6, which was the highest in the division for choreo. And now for Taeguk 7, her score coming in at even higher, 7.7. So building a little gap for herself between the first and second spot. She received a 7.65. So up here are the standings for the youth female semifinal round. We have Miriam Abdelrasol finishing in first place with a big gap over the rest. Here's Kata Arian in second, Sophia Kim, Mika Chim, Abigail Sprabak, Gwen Gospi, Sophia Hernandez, and Anna Chang, the top 8 spots. So they'll move on to the final round. So up next, we have the female youth red belt division. And this is going to be the final division in our episode tonight. Here are the referees that are on board for this division. And up first, we have Laura Tran from California. She trains at YIC Taekwondo. Always fun to watch a red belt, see where they are in their development. She's doing a really good job of going through Chojang. There's a good understanding of all the basic movements. Maybe now next step, just adding a little bit more core strength and power through each of the finishes. So we have 11 athletes in this division. We're looking for the top 8 to move on to the final round. So she starts off with a score of 6.97. So all the athletes in this division, second Poomsae will be at take 5. Well, she actually looks like she's increased her power from the second Poomsae to the second here. Really good line coming forward on take a Kojang. Nice high front kicks for Laura Tran. She had a 6.97 for the first Poomsae. I know a lot of you are keeping track at home, probably writing them down, making sure that you're getting it all just right. The second form, 7.1. And here comes her combined score up next with a 7.033. Again, this is a youth female red belt division. And up next, we have Melody Zhuang. Melody trains in New York at East Taekwondo. Doing a good job as she goes through Poomsae. Maybe a little bit more knee bend on that boom sogi to drop her down a little bit lower. That would be great. Maybe a little bit more extension off the front stance and a little lower into the back stance. So that's all stuff that's probably necessary because she looks like she's been growing a little bit lately. So she starts off with a 6.9. Sometimes athletes have to catch up to their growth spurts. So while they used to be doing some fairly shallow stances, maybe having to go into a little bit more extension. So that looks like the case here. You know, a lot of the athletes start at just, such a young age, and then sometimes just by habit revert to some of those shorter stances. Oh, nice try for the big extension there. So Melody Zhuang received a 6.9 for her first form. And now for Tega Kojang, getting a score again of 6.9. Good, and of course finishing up with the final Poomsae score of 6.9. Here we have Sophia Hapalainen from North Carolina. She trains at Pure Taekwondo. She's working through with a pretty good speed here. Has a few accuracy things that she might want to tend to as she continues her training. Nice to see folks from North Carolina. This looks like Pure Taekwondo Master Posey's Club, and jumping into the Poomsae or competitive Poomsae action fairly recently. So it's interesting to see the Poomsae. So she did Taeguk Chiljung, which was an incorrect Poomsae. So the highest score that she can get is a 1.5 for that Poomsae. So sometimes athletes will misread that designated Poomsae list, or they might have the forms mislabeled from the semifinal round to the preliminary, or I should say from the preliminary semifinal to the final round. So when it hits USAT, it has to be in the correct order and labeled correctly. So she's working her way here to Taeguk Sajang. So it's unfortunate, but also probably a good opportunity for her to practice her Poomsae. So it's nice that she was able to work through it multiple times and record it. Just unfortunately for this particular event, she won't be able to go much further than this round here because she gets a 1.5 because of the incorrect Poomsae. So up next we have Chloe Ng from California. She trains with the KS Choi Taekwondo Center.
And it's really great to see these red belts, Coach Brand. They're opening up really strong.
Yeah, they are. So this Taeguk Poljang, they haven't known this Poomsae for a very long amount of time. So they're still learning and having to bring it up to a performance level. So very challenging but fun, because it really guarantees that they'll have a lot of practice with the Poomsae. And that's every instructor's dream, right? That athletes take a lot of time working through the details and not just, trying to learn what direction to go in and flop everything around. They're really trying to make sure everything looks strong.
Right, and like you mentioned,
so again,
this is
that's
one of
Chloe E.
And she gets a 7.23 on her first form for Taeguk Poljang.
So right away, I can see Chloe's a little bit more comfortable with Taeguk Poljang. Probably most of the athletes are. They've known it for probably maybe a year or more, longer than Taeguk Poljang. She's just zipping right through this one. We have to make sure on those side kicks that we do have like a clear chamber and a reaction, not a reaction, but a retraction coming after the extension. So sometimes these youngsters are really able to throw good height, but it really doesn't have the shape of an actual kick. So 7.07 for that second Poomsae, really good score in this division. The only higher score here was from Laura Tran. So she receives a final Poomsae score of 7.15. So this is Alexandra McComber from Texas. She trains at World Champion Taekwondo.
And she's already competed as a blue belt. She competed at both the Oklahoma and Kansas state championships. So now moving up to the red belt division, like we mentioned, this Poljang is a slightly newer form for the red belt. So a little bit of struggles, balance a little off on some of these transitions as they work through it, but she has some nice power coming through.
And that's the key thing for Poljang, right? Staying balanced through some of those boomsogis, which they really haven't had an opportunity to work through as much as a front stance, back stance, for example. So Alexandra, for first Poomsae table pole jump, your score coming in now at 6.8. Let's see if she can really boost up her score and guarantee a spot in the final round. Again, we have 11 athletes in the division looking for the top 8. That was a really good front kick. Her front kicks are on.
Right, especially coming straight towards the camera like that. Oh, another little balance check.
Yeah, I think her heel popping up a little bit on the transitions, maybe something she can work through too.
On the side kicks, you do want to keep the hand that's not doing that back fist really attached to your hip. I see this a lot, that athletes will let that hip drift to the center of their chest, and then it makes the elbow much smaller. So instead, one hand out with your kick, the other hand really attached to that belt until you go into the elbow motion. But here she gets a 6.7, so just a tiny drop to the second form.
And finishes with a 6.75. I think sometimes athletes don't even know they're aware that they're doing that type of thing. So it's nice to just make mention of it to help them hear. So Miyako, if you could introduce the next athlete for us.
This is Elena Sipsikis.
Good job.
Yeah. And she is from New York, trains at YH Park Taekwondo Academy, coached by Master Alex Tercios.
Just wanted to give you a chance to introduce her since there are so many P's in her name, and I think it's silent. Sipsikis.
Sipsikis.
Sipsikis. Yeah. Cool name.
I think Elena has a good length on her front stances, but her front knee isn't quite bent enough. So she doesn't need to make them any longer, but just bending, leaning into it so that that front shin is a vertical line will help her a little bit. But she gets a 6.9, so a pretty good score here.
Yeah, I think that's in the top 3 for the division. The top one so far, oh, actually, you're not. The top one so far is a 7.1, and we had 2 6.9s.
Lots of flexibility in this youth division, again, 10 to 11 years old. So it's not just how high can you throw your kick, like a front leg stretch isn't going to be as good, even though it might be really high. So we really want to work through the chambers, both before and after the kicks, especially the side kick there for her.
I saw those two there kind of swinging up from the ground, but that's really common for athletes. It just seems like an odd position to throw a side kick from for most of them, from that front stance to that upper block arm sticking out there. So a lot of them just kind of turn and pray, maybe turn and hope that it's going to end up where it should. So she gets a slightly lower score for that, 6.67. So those side kicks can either really help you or pull down your score a little bit. So she ends up with a 6.783. And here's our standings so far. We have Chloe Ng in first, followed by Laura Tran, Melody Zhuang, Elena Sipsikis, see what I mean, everybody? Alexandra McComber, and Sophia Hamlanen. This is Nabila Diorio, and she is from Illinois at Flying V Martial Arts.
I think I remember her from the summer of Poomsae because she was so clean in her motions.
I remember her too, and I was just thinking maybe just a little bit more extension would help. A little bit more in the preset and a little bit more in the final motion there.
Wow.
Great front kick.
Really nice. That chamber comes straight up.
Wow, look at that.
That's really great.
That is great. Wow. Both of those are like really high above her head. It doesn't look like it's going to happen, and all of a sudden, pow, it happens. Great.
Yeah, her body doesn't move at all. So it really is just that leg and the hips tucking under. I'm excited to see some side kicks next.
Yeah, it's like a nice little fun surprise. 7.1 for Nabila for her first form, and then moving on to take Ojang. You're right. So we're going to get a chance to see these side kicks now.
시작!
Wow.
Just like it comes out of nowhere. Like her face is just like really calm, and then pop. Watch this. Oh, a little bit more extension on that front stance, maybe get all the way there. Look at that kick. It's like her whole foot is above her head. All right, let's see. Does she chamber a little bit? Yeah, that kick's way up there.
Yeah, she could bring the chamber a little higher and tighter on the way up, but the up itself is great. It's just the path to the up that we're talking about.
그릇! 그릇!
So I think she's going to get higher on this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too.
She got a 7.1. There you go. 7.2 for the second Poomsae. So a really good round. She'll be into first place here with a 7.15. Oh, actually tied for first with Chloe Ng. This is Adeline Jar. Adeline comes to us from Kansas. She trains at Kim's Academy of Taekwondo.
I remember Adeline from the summer of Poomsae as well. She finished 6th there. So trying to see if she can move her way up at all. Taking a pretty quick tempo, moving through, but not quite as clean a finish on the non-dominant hand. So the hand that's punching is okay, but the hand that's pulling back has a little bit of motion at the end. So you really want to squeeze and finish both of your hands on every single technique.
And she gets a 6.83. See if she can maybe extend a few more inches out for the stance. A little bit more volume on the hand technique. She's got a good balance on these kicks.
We don't see many competitors with glasses for competition, but definitely doable.
Nice side kick foot position.
It's always one of my favorite parts of Ojang is the finish. If you get their foot position exactly perfect, you just twist out of it and your feet finish perfectly in line parallel into your Pado stance.
Yeah, 6.9. The camera on that Poomsae was on that competitor was really angled up. So might want to watch that. It kind of throws off the look of it.
Hello, USA Taekwondo family. This is Sherman Nelson. I am your Minister of Information, and I'm one half of the Chop It Up Brothers, the CIUBs. And I'm here today with Hannah Lavino. She is my guest of honor. Hannah, how are you, my dear?
Good today.
Good. It's good. It's good to see you. Listen, we wanted to spend a little time getting to know you. You're one of the competitors in our 2020 online Taekwondo Grand Slam Poomsae Extraordinaire. It took me a while to get that out because I was trying to add a whole bunch of unnecessary words to it. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how old you are, what division you compete in, what dojang you train in.
I'm Hannah Lavino. I'm 11 years old. I'm from Bay Area, California. I'm a red belt and I train at Daehan Martial Arts.
Nice, nice. I see you repping the Warriors.
Yep, this is our Hooptopia shirt when we went to that in San Francisco. It was very fun.
Nice, nice. You had a good time. Do you watch basketball?
Not really, but a couple times our friend got us a couple tickets to go. My brother got to go to his game, but mine unfortunately got canceled by COVID, but I was very excited.
Oh, but yeah, now listen, if you get a chance to go to a game, even if you don't like it, you'll love the experience. And we believe that one day, again, we will be able to go to sporting events. One day soon, in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll be able to go to sporting events. No, I'm just joking. All right, let's talk about Taekwondo. Are you excited about this Poomsae event, this Online Poomsae Grand Slam?
I'm super excited about the online too, but I will always love competing in person more. It's so much, both are very fun. I just prefer the in person.
Yeah, there's something about being in the room with the people and sharing the space with everybody else. What's it like prepping for an online competition?
Well, you have to go to the dojang and, you practice doing it a few times, and then you start to video, and then if you do it wrong, you could do it over again, which is good because you have more than one chance if you mess it up while you're videoing. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's not as good,
Okay. All right. So let's have a philosophical discussion. You up for that?
Sure.
All right. I will give you grace for the hesitation because I don't know why you hesitated, but I see how you're doing me today, Hannah. If you could be any animal, real or mythical, what animal would you be and why?
I think maybe a tiger, because they're very strong, very powerful.
Nice.
Kings of the jungle.
Nice. You realize the king of the jungle is the lion, right?
The king of the savannah.
Ah, see, that's a good fact because lions actually don't even live in jungles. I don't even know why they call them the king of the jungle. See how the tiger's just been treated bad because he's got orange stripes. See, it's just Tony the Tiger is right. They are great. You see what I did there? You see what I did, Tony the Tiger? All right, listen. All right, so I'm not gonna keep you. I'm gonna free you up so that you don't have to spend any more time talking to the crazy old guy in Taekwondo. But what's one thing you would tell somebody who is watching that has never watched Taekwondo before, and this is the first time they're getting to see it? What would you tell them?
I would tell them this is a great sport and it's very fun to do, and it's just impacted my life so much. It's so much fun, and one thing I have as a piece of advice would be the harder you work, it's going to be easier to achieve your goals.
Oh, that's good stuff. That's a good bomb to drop. Kaboom! Thank you, Hannah, for taking time out for your interview. I wish you the best in your competition, and go be a tiger.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Thank you again.
You're welcome. It was fun.
Bye-bye.
And this is Hannah Levino. Oh, I remember this site, right? Miyako, she's at Daehan Martial Arts Center.
Remember these walls.
I think this club is rated best wall to run into during sparring. It's in a Yelp review somewhere. So leaning a little bit forward, maybe extend out that front foot a little bit more. You wouldn't have to do that.
Well, it's because she's so tall, Coach Brand. Look at how long her legs are.
No, it's crazy.
Ooh, big lean there.
But imagine what that would be like to have grown so much recently and then having to adjust all the stances.
Oh.
Yeah, she's just 11. She could easily be 14 with how long her legs are. So I think just adjusting and getting used to that body as she's growing into it. But she gets a 7.17, so a pretty high score.
It's a really big score. So I think that ties her up in the first round, Chloe Ng.
시작.
Nice extension on all of these.
A little bit of a rise and fall between these stances as she's going through. So really working to stay low in transition. Pretty good way up on the side kick. Cleaner on the retraction on the second side. Fell out a little on the first.
Yeah, for sure. So that's Hannah Levino from California at Dayhan Martial Arts Center. She got a 7.17 for the first Poomsae and a 7.2 for the second. So her total score is coming in at 7.183. A really good safe score to make it into the finals. This is Nicole Strazo. Nicole's from Illinois. She's from iTiger Martial Arts.
She's starting out very clean, very composed. This is really great. She has really amazing body control, a little bit of a jump there to pull in that front kick, but otherwise, she has, cleanliness that we see of much older athletes.
Right, definitely not rushing through anything. So next step for her is maintain that body control, just like you're doing, and add a little bit more oomph into some of those hand techniques to finish strong. She had really good control, as you mentioned, not going ahead of her pace at all. So she gets a big reward. 7.47 for the first Poomsae. So Nicole was in the number 2 seed spot coming into this event. So we just have one more athlete after Nicole, and that's the athlete that was in the number 1 seed spot. Really good accuracy.
Yeah, the things that need to be at face level. Otherwise, these middle blocks are coming in at shoulder height. Good path for the side kick.
Really great performance for Nicole Strud from Illinois. Her first score of 7.47 for Taker Paljang. Here comes the second, maybe higher. There you go, 7.37, another good score. Just a little lower than the first. But she's going to end up very strong, and I think into first place so far with 7.417 with one athlete to go. So
this is the last athlete of the tournament for today, Coach Brand.
Yeah, this is the last one of this episode. We'll have more for sure going into the final rounds of the divisions we saw today. But this is the last one of the episode. This is Jordan Tomas from California, trains with Yao Taekwondo.
I remember this setup from the summer of Poomsae as well. Those nice, the backdrop there. And look at those front kicks, so fast and high.
Right, nice tempo, nice and consistent through the whole Poomsae. That's Jordan Tomas from California at Yao Taekwondo, the number 1 seed going into this event and scoring the same score as Nicole Strasda with a 7.47 for Taker Paljang. So I think that everybody's probably on the edge of their seats along with us, right? Miyako trying to find out who's going to go into that finals in the number 1 spot.
Well, exactly. So we had Nicole and Jordan here matching high scores. Different styles, Jordan taking a quicker tempo, maybe not quite as clean in some of the movements. We are getting a little bit of a motion front to back at the end of the stance, but maybe a little bit more power, more tempo.
Wow.
Nice clean side kick.
Look at that. Boop. Wow, very nice.
Compared to Nicole, who was much more even in her tempo, very careful, not as much power, but very accurate and nice to watch. So it's just a choice in style. And look at that score.
That was huge. That was a really strong performance of Taylor Gojong, especially the presentation value of those two sidekicks going up clean. 7.583 is the total score. So she'll take that first spot, and then second Nicole Strauss, then third Hannah Levino, and then following up Chloe Ng, Abela Diorio, Laura Tran, Melody Zhuang, and Adeline Jar. Those are our top 8 finishers. So those will be our athletes in the finals. So that will be on an upcoming episode.
Thanks everyone for joining us for episode 3 of this USAT Online Poomsae Grand Slam. This was the first major event, and now we're all the way through the semifinals. So 2 episodes left this week, Thursday and Friday. We're heading into the finals. Coach Brand, what do you think of all the semis today?
Super exciting. So we got even a couple of scores of 8. So that was really, really fantastic to watch. I'm looking for some more of those in the final round because I just go nuts when I see those. It means the athletes are training super, super hard. And it seems like everybody's made a lot of progress even since the summer of Poomsae. So it's really exciting to watch all of the online events. And we might not have thought this was going to happen at the beginning of COVID, but my goodness, so many athletes have improved their skills across the board. And it's really fun to be able to have this platform for everyone to share what they're doing in terms of their progress or their new skill level. And everybody's just been doing an amazing job. I was really excited to see your performance and watch it along with you, which must have been a surreal experience, but really fun too, and a little bit nerve-wracking, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And I can't wait for these finals. Congratulations to all of the athletes who made it into the top 8. Our next 2 episodes coming out Thursday and Friday, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
Excellent. Thanks, Miyako, and thanks to you, Jose, for putting it all together for us. That's Jose Villapondo at USAT, the magic behind everything you see here.